It's the second month of spring, but instead of a vibrant season, the world around me is lifeless and barren. I cautiously lift a manhole cover on a desolate street, peering out to check my surroundings. All I see are ruins and debris, remnants of a once bustling city that has now fallen silent, abandoned to dust and decay. This is the world 3 years after the behemoth calamity. I was a simple guy called Luo Yin, but now I climb out of the sewer, my ragged clothes clinging to me, and pull the cover back over the hole. The wind picks up, brushing against my dirty, black hair. I'm careful, fully aware that survival here means staying alert. The rain begins to fall, something I have mixed feelings about. It helps mask my scent, but it also brings with it the danger of red poison, a deadly toxin released when the blood of the behemoths, those giant creatures that devastated our world, mixes with the rain. The poison has already taken hold in my body. My eyes are nearly fully consumed by the red tint, a sign that I don't have much time left. But I'm not ready to die. Not yet. I pull down my goggles and don a waterproof helmet, preparing to move quickly through the ruined streets. I pass familiar landmarks: an old hot pot restaurant, a collapsed cinema, but I have to stop suddenly when my eyes begin to burn. It's the strange vision I developed after the calamity. I can see faint, gray lights that signal danger ahead. I hide in the trunk of a nearby car as a group of wolf ticks, vicious parasites from the behemoths, pass by. These creatures are as big as dogs, and they hunt in packs, feeding on blood. I've encountered them before and know how deadly they can be. After they move on, I make my way to a partially collapsed supermarket that I use as a secret stash for food. I collect some bread and sausages, enough to last a week, even though they're expired. It doesn't matter now. What matters is surviving. On my way back, I encounter more danger. 3 men try to rob me, but I manage to shoot one and escape down the manhole. I can hear them begging for mercy as wolf ticks close in on them. I ignore their pleas and hold the manhole cover tightly closed. Soon, the sounds above fade, leaving only the unsettling noise of the ticks feeding. I continue on, my next goal to find painkillers for when the red poison flares up. As I head towards an old pharmacy, I hear the ground shake. Something big is moving. I hide in a shoe store and watch as a convoy of massive vehicles passes by, military trucks that bring hope. They might have the cure for the poison, and I can't miss this chance. I follow them, using my vision to avoid dangers, until I see an opportunity to sneak into one of the trucks. Inside the truck, I'm overwhelmed by a strange sensation, almost losing consciousness. The space is larger than expected, and I see something huge, covered and tied down. Suddenly, alarms blare, and a voice announces the activation of a space displacement wave. The truck is preparing to release something, and I realize I've stepped into something far bigger and more dangerous than I imagined. When I heard the broadcast, I couldn't believe my ears. They mentioned something about mechs. I had only ever seen those in movies. Suddenly, the truck I was in started to hum, and the roof split open. Through the opening, I could see the sky, and far above, a strange black branch-like structure tearing open a rift. From that rift, shadows began to emerge, just like the day the behemoth calamity started. It was from these rifts that the giant beasts were released into our world. As the truck's roof fully opened, I quickly crawled under a waterproof tarp, just in time to hear more of the broadcast. They were talking about a beast called Lily, which had been detected and was about to materialize in our world. The tarp I was under suddenly fell, and I had to scramble out before I got suffocated. When I emerged, I saw a giant shadow looming over me. I turned around to see a massive mech rising from the truck bed, its silver armor glinting and its engine humming with a blue glow. I was in awe. There really were mechs. But before I could take it all in, I was suddenly thrown back, hitting the truck bed hard. I looked up to see buildings collapsing in the distance, and the broadcast confirmed that the beast had landed and was moving toward the Galaxy Stadium. I knew I had to get out of there, but as I tried to escape, soldiers found me and shouted for me to stop. They were professionals, unlike the scavengers I dealt with before, so I didn't dare resist. They forced me to the ground and restrained me. As they dragged me away, I saw the mech pilot, a man with a stern look, ready to launch the mech. He didn't even seem to care about me, just wanted me out of the way so he could start fighting. As I was being pulled away, I heard a deep rumbling sound from the direction of the stadium. The ground shook violently, and I could see the stadium collapsing. The beast, Lily, was approaching the convoy. The mech pilot prepared to engage it, but then something strange happened. My vision blurred, and I saw another gray light, a second beast chasing after Lily. I shouted to warn them, but no one listened. Suddenly, from the dust behind Lily, a second, more terrifying beast appeared. It had the head of a goat, but with dark, twisted horns and a humanoid body covered in rough, dark skin. It attacked Lily with ferocity, bringing the massive beast down and ripping it apart in a gruesome display. The scene left me frozen with fear. The broadcast identified the second beast as Tautai, a more powerful and deadly creature. As it finished off Lily, it turned its attention to the convoy. The mech pilot tried to fight it, but Taoye's abilities were overwhelming. It could consume the mech's bullets and even turn invisible. I tried to warn them again, but my voice was drowned out by the chaos. Taotai attacked the mech, smashing it to the ground. The pilot was knocked out, and the situation seemed hopeless. But then something incredible happened. As I stared at Taotai, I felt a strange connection, as if I could see through the mech's eyes. I moved my arm, and the mech mirrored my actions, grabbing Taotai by the neck. I was somehow controlling the mech. I aimed its weapon at Taoye's weak spot and fired, the bullets tearing through the beast and splitting it in half. Even after Taotai was dead, I kept smashing its head, driven by a surge of fury and determination. Finally, when the beast was nothing more than a bloody pulp, the mech's power faded, and I collapsed to the ground, exhausted. The soldiers around me were stunned, but all I could think about was how I had just fought and won against a creature that should have killed me. The mech's deformed rifle was still embedded in Taoye's head, like a victory flag marking the end of the battle. I was in a daze, unable to fully come to my senses. After what felt like a long time, I vaguely heard someone speaking to me. "Hey kid, what's your name? I'm asking you a question." I looked up, confused, and saw a few people standing around me. There were some warriors in dark armor, and a man dressed in something like a wetsuit with sensors attached to it. The man, who seemed to be in charge, had a stern, cold expression. "This kid hasn't recovered from the resonance yet. Take him to the medical vehicle so the doctor can check him out," the man ordered. I was lifted by two of the warriors and taken away, their movements surprisingly gentle this time. The man, who they called Captain D, glanced at a silver mech nearby before quickly entering an armored vehicle. Inside the vehicle, the soldiers greeted Captain D with a salute. He signaled them and said, "Replay the footage of the White Dragon battle for me." On the screen, I saw myself on the ground, mimicking movements that the White Dragon mech repeated exactly. "Captain Dijon, he might be like you, a natural resonator," one of the soldiers quietly mentioned. Captain Dijon nodded. "He hasn't been trained, but he can connect to the resonance system. He's indeed a natural resonator. He seems to be a better match for White Dragon than Yang Rong." Dijon added, "When he recovers, I'll ask if he wants to join us. If he agrees, we'll take him to the underground city." "No way," a voice suddenly interrupted. Yang Rong, a pilot with black hair and brown eyes, had just come in and was visibly upset by what he overheard. "Captain, we can't take some unknown kid to the underground city. Besides, he has red poison. His eyes are red, and he's close to death. He has no value." Yang Rong argued passionately. Dijon calmly told him, "Are you finished? If so, leave. This is not your place." Yang Rong, despite his frustration, left, but the words that Dijon spoke, comparing me to him, clearly troubled him deeply. In the medical vehicle, after a series of tests, I finally started to recover, though I was still weak. When a nurse tried to give me an injection, I instinctively jumped up, resisting. But then Captain Dijon entered and explained that the injection would help with my red poison, and that I needed to take it. His calm authority made me sit back down and let the nurse proceed. Captain Dijon introduced himself as the commander of the Ground Exploration Corps and told me I was a natural resonator, a natural-born mech pilot. He invited me to join them in the underground city, where I would have to train for 3 years but would also receive benefits, including treatment for my red poison. This offer was my only hope for survival, especially since I wanted to find my family. So, I agreed. Captain Dijon warned me that by joining him, I would also gain his enemies in the city. But I wasn't afraid of making enemies. I just wanted to live. That night, as I sat alone, a beautiful woman in a uniform came over and offered me food. I didn't trust her, having learned to be cautious over the years. She tried to get close, asking how I controlled the white dragon Mech, but I didn't give her any information. After she left, I threw the food to some stray dogs, who soon collapsed, poisoned. She had tried to kill me. Later that night, I confronted her in her tent. She admitted that Yang Rong had ordered her to poison me. In retaliation, I forced her to eat the poisoned food and watched as she died. I left the camp, scattering her blood as I went. Soon, a pack of wolves smelled the blood and attacked the camp, killing the woman in the process. The next day, we continued our journey north, stopping under a bridge to rest. While the others worked on maintaining the Mechs, I closed my eyes, focusing on the white dragon. I managed to connect with it again, and when I saw Yang Rong standing under the Mech, I made it fall, crushing him to death. As everyone else rushed to help, I sat back, eating the last piece of bread I had brought with me, savoring the moment. After Yang Rong's death, there was quite a commotion in the camp. I just sat there quietly, eating and watching like I was an outsider. In the end, they ruled it as an accident. I was prepared for Captain Dijon to suspect me. I even set up some makeshift alarms in my tent, ready to escape if needed. But nothing happened. The night passed peacefully. The next day, the convoy continued its journey. We encountered giant beasts and a swarm of parasites, but Captain Dijon and another pilot in a mech fought them off. I watched the entire battle, noticing how agile Captain Dijon's mech, called Blue Blade, was. It moved at incredible speeds, which the soldiers said was due to something called divine concealment. I didn't know what that was, but I figured I'd learn about it if I made it to the underground city. After the battle, the crew dissected the beast corpses, collecting blood, organs, scales, and claws. I remembered them doing the same in Flower City with the corpses of the Taotai and the Lily. I wasn't sure if they were collecting these things for research or something else. For the next few days, we encountered beasts almost daily, which confirmed what the survivors used to say: living outside the city was nearly impossible because the land had become a playground for these giant creatures. After a while, I noticed something strange. The beasts seemed to be targeting a specific truck. This was the truck that carried the mysterious item we took from the Taoyes' lair. It made me wonder if the Taotai had stayed in the city center because it was attracted to that item. One day, we were driving on a broken highway when a giant bird-like beast called Churu suddenly attacked. It flipped over the truck, revealing a large, black crystal about 7 or 8 meters long. The crystal had a sinister vibe, with beastly faces forming and disappearing within it. The Churu tried to grab the crystal with its red claws, but Captain Dijon and the other pilot intercepted it. During the battle, the crystal was hit by gunfire and shattered. I saw one of the fragments, a white streak, fly over my head and land in a distant field. It had a pure, almost holy aura, which seemed odd coming from such an evil-looking crystal. While the battle continued, I ran to where the white streak had landed. I found a patch of grass growing rapidly, with flowers blooming wildly in contrast to the withered plants nearby. I searched through the vibrant grass and found a small, white diamond-shaped object. It felt smooth and cool, like jade. As I was about to put it away for later study, the object began to glow, revealing a symbol like a Taiji diagram. The diamond shape dissolved, leaving only the glowing symbol, which suddenly shot into my forehead. I was startled, worried that this thing from the black crystal might harm me. But after a while, I felt nothing unusual, so I relaxed a bit. By the time I returned to the road, the battle was over. The injured Churu had fled, and Captain Dijon was directing the soldiers to collect the crystal fragments. I overheard one of them mention the word Yuan, which seemed to refer to the black crystal. It was clear that the convoy knew exactly what it was and had come for it. I thought about telling Captain Dijon about the white stone, but then I worried they might turn me into a lab rat, so I decided against it. The convoy continued north, and a week after leaving Flower City, we reached a large lake. When we got to the shore, a tunnel rose from the water to connect to the land. I was amazed. Who would have guessed the entrance to the underground city was hidden in a lake? We drove into the tunnel, descending deeper and deeper. After about half an hour, I saw a vast underground space through the window so big it could fit a whole city. There were trains running between the buildings, and giant pipes connected the ground to the ceiling, possibly even reaching the surface. The convoy took a high road down into the city, and I realized it looked just like the cities from before the Great Beast disaster, except for the turrets on every rooftop and the tanks and armored vehicles patrolling the streets. This is Guangling City, one of the 18 northern cities, Captain Dijon explained when he appeared beside me. The new underground cities are still under construction, but because of the disaster, it's going to take much longer to finish them. He then told me I was in luck because today was the entrance exam day for the Mecha Training Academy, and he had already signed me up. However, passing the exam was up to me, and if I failed, I'd be sent back to the surface. I nodded, understanding the stakes. Captain Dijon continued, advising me not to immediately exchange my academy credits for the antidote to my red poison. Instead, he suggested I use the credits for resources to improve my skills, which would allow me to earn more credits and access better treatments. He also warned me that life in the city was different from the surface. There were rules here, and I couldn't just kill anyone who got in my way. But if someone tried to kill me, I could defend myself, even kill them if necessary. He made it clear that while he would protect me, he wouldn't hesitate to kill me if I abused his protection. After that, a soldier drove me to the academy. When we arrived, I saw a large stone monument with 4 powerful characters engraved on it, exuding a strong sense of killing intent. Inside, the place was filled with new students, most around 17 or 18 years old. I was about to find a quiet corner to wait when someone suddenly shoved me from behind. I dodged instinctively, ready to break the person's arm, but stopped myself, remembering Captain Dijon's words. Instead, I pushed them away, causing a chubby guy to fall hard on the ground. Everyone looked at us, and the chubby guy angrily demanded to know where I came from. When I said I was a new student and that he had started it, he seemed to feel insulted, especially when he saw my red eyes. He yelled that I had red poison and called for security to kick me out. Just then, a teacher arrived and silenced everyone, saying I was recommended by Captain Dijon and that red poison wasn't contagious. The teacher handed me a registration card and told us that the entrance exam would start soon, involving killing a wolf. Took a task that seemed easy to me. As I was preparing, a soldier named Shaoli gave me a phone with his number, warning me to watch out for someone named Luo Beichen, who was trouble. I thanked him and got ready for the exam. When the exam started, I chose a long spear as my weapon and wrapped the bloodied sleeve I had torn off earlier around the tip. When the wolf tick was released, it immediately charged at me, crazed by the scent of blood. It impaled itself on the spear, and I calmly walked away, leaving everyone else in stunned silence. One of the other students, a skinny guy with glasses, figured out my strategy and explained it to the chubby guy, who then realized I had used his blood to bait the wolf tick. I didn't care about their reactions. I had passed the test. 2 hours later, the academy test ended. The broadcast sounded. The results of the academy test are out. This time, there are 68 freshmen with an average score of over 80. Next, the passing list and scores will be announced. Students whose names are called, please gather in the hall. Students whose names are not called, please keep working hard. The list will now be announced, in no particular order. Li Jia, 81 points, passed. Xiao Yuan, 85 points, passed. Zhang Shan, 87 points, passed. Luo Yin perked up his ears, listening attentively to the broadcast. Around him, the students whose names were called were very excited. For example, a tall boy named Zhang Shan, who was so happy that his eyes turned red as he raised his arms in celebration. He attracted some attention. Some people were more composed and mature. For example, Li Bo Hang, a tall and slim student wearing glasses. There was also another outstanding young man, but overall, he gave off a gloomy feeling. He had quite a few followers around him. Lu Beichun, 91 points, passed. When the broadcast announced this name, many of the people around the gloomy young man cheered. Congratulations, Brother Liu, 91 points. This score is really high. Indeed, I think Brother Liu will surely be the top among the freshmen this term. So he is Liu Bei-chun, the son of Luo Tianyi. When Luo Yin looked over, the gloomy young man also glanced back. Their eyes met in the air. Liu Bei-chun smiled slightly, to show goodwill. But as Luo Yin averted his gaze, a different look flashed in Liu Bei-chun's eyes. At this moment, the broadcast announced again, Li Bohang, 92 points, passed. Liu Bei-chun's smile immediately froze. His followers were also stunned. Wasn't this slap in the face a bit too quick? However, it wasn't over yet. Lin Wei, 95 points, passed. 95 points. The students were in an uproar. This score was way too high. And from the name, it was obviously a girl. Just as the students were searching for who Lin Wei was, the broadcast sounded again, Luo Yin, 98 points, passed. At this point, there was no expression left on Liu Bei-chun's face. The hall fell into a dead silence. 98 points. Out of 100 points, someone actually scored 98. Could the invigilators have made a mistake? The students' faces were filled with confusion, shock, and doubt. All of it was seen by an old man. Academy, principal's office. Principal Pan Renfeng chuckled and said, "The wolf cub recommended by Dijong is really extraordinary. His survival experience on the surface is completely incomparable to the kids from our underground city." At this time, the screen had frozen on Luo Yin. The old principal, in his early 60s, short in stature, with white hair tied into a small braid. Behind him, the teacher who had previously disclosed Luo Yan's identity at the hall said in a deep voice, "Principal, are you really planning to accept this student?" Dijong did say. On the way here, a pilot threatened him, and he set up a trap to eliminate him. This could be a ticking time bomb. Pan Renfeng chuckled and said, "So what? I was even more ruthless when I was young. Or could it be that our teacher Wei Fenghua is afraid? Afraid of causing trouble?" The middle-aged teacher coughed a few times and then said, "Principal, you don't need to use reverse psychology on me. If you dare to accept him, then let me teach this student." With giant beasts invading and Yin Fu reappearing, we do need some ruthless and fierce kids to have any hope of reclaiming the surface and taking back our homeland from those beasts' claws. Pan Renfeng nodded slightly. "That's exactly what I was thinking. Besides," Dijong said, "this wolf cub still has some principles. The two who died were the ones who harbored ill intentions towards him first. Otherwise, if it were just wanton killing of the innocent, even if he were a natural resonator, Dijong wouldn't have let him live until now, let alone bring him back to Guangling. Teach him well, Teacher Wei." Wei Fenghua adjusted his slightly cracked glasses and said, "I will." After the list of 68 students was announced, those who passed went to the hall. Those who didn't pass returned with regret. Luo Yin walked among the crowd. He walked on the periphery, as usual, maintaining a state where he could escape at any time. 3 years on the surface. Even this seemingly safe campus couldn't change the habits Luo Yin had developed. Hall. Luo Yin saw Wei Fenghua. Wei Fenghua clasped his hands behind his back and looked around. "My name is Wei Fenghua. I am the Dean of Education. First of all, congratulations on successfully passing the test. From this moment on, you are the candidate pilots of Guangling City, enjoying 4th level treatment." Cheers erupted. Many people were so excited that their eyes were red. Luo Yin didn't know what 4th level treatment was. But judging from the excitement of the students around him, it seemed to be quite good. Wei Fenghua continued, "Next, you will be assigned dormitories based on your scores. You must be tired today. Go back to your dormitories and rest well. Classes start officially tomorrow." Wei Fenghua paused and then added, "Your academy test scores have already been converted into credits. Credits can be exchanged for various supplies at the logistics department. In the future, your outstanding academic performance will also be rewarded with credits. That's all I have to say." After finishing his speech, Wei Fenghua glanced at Luo Yin and then left the hall. After Wei Fenghua left, a female teacher stepped forward and said, "Before going to the dormitory, the academy needs to collect your physical data as part of the fitness assessment. It won't take up too much of your time. Students whose names are called, please go over there." The teacher pointed to a device similar to an airport security gate. Zhang Rui, Lu Bing, Qin Yongsong, one by one. The students lined up to go through the security gate, and staff members with tablets recorded the data. When it was Luo Yan's turn, he walked through the gate. The light on the gate suddenly lit up. Something seems to be wrong. "Student, please walk through again." Luo Yan did as he was told. The light on the gate lit up again. At this point, the female teacher came over and asked, "What's going on?" The staff member, a little uncertain, said, "It seems this student has practiced meditation techniques. The data shows that his primordial energy has already reached 97 units. This is the level that can only be achieved after completing basic training. Also, his celestial spirit is already in an activated state. He has opened his meridians and awakened the divine treasure. His divine treasure is the clairvoyant eye." All of a sudden, dozens of gazes in the hall, swish, 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 fell on Luo Yan. Among these gazes, there was surprise, envy, and jealousy. Luo Yan had no idea what they were talking about, but the name, clairvoyant eye, seemed quite fitting for his peculiar vision. At this moment, someone said, "Completing basic training isn't that special. Basic meditation techniques are common. Anyone in our city who can afford them starts practicing before enrolling." Another voice added, "Besides, the clairvoyant eye isn't a particularly impressive divine treasure. It belongs to the hypersensory category. If I remember correctly, the clairvoyant eye is one of the most common and least notable among the hypersensory abilities." The students murmured amongst themselves. The previously envious and jealous gazes had softened considerably. Hearing that the clairvoyant eye was quite common, Luo Yan couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed, especially when the female teacher looked over with a hint of "what a pity" in her eyes. It made Luo Yan feel even worse. But he said nothing. He consoled himself. Although the clairvoyant eye was common, Di Zhang had also said, he was a natural resonator. One couldn't have all the advantages. With gains come losses. Thinking this way, he became clear-headed again, no longer feeling regretful. After the physical examination, next, the dormitory supervisor led the freshmen to their dorms. The top 3 students in the academy test will be given a private dormitory, but this privilege is not permanent. Every quarter, the academy will conduct evaluations. If your score drops, you will lose the right to use the private dormitory, so the top 3 students must remain vigilant. Students with lower scores shouldn't be discouraged. If you work hard, you too will have a chance to move into a private dormitory. The supervisor said as they walked. These words sparked a competitive spirit among the students. Soon, Luo Yan entered his room. A private dormitory, 4 single occupancy. The bedroom and living room were integrated. There was a private bathroom. The environment was elegant, a million times better than his old kennel in the sewers. But Luo Yan frowned, thinking, the bed is too close to the window. There's no protective barrier on the window, and it's a floor-to-ceiling window, making it easy to be attacked. There are no escape measures. In case of an emergency, the survival rate is almost 0. With his 3 years of experience living on the surface, apart from the good environment and large space, this dorm was not as safe as his kennel. Thinking this, he decided to visit the logistics department later, to see if he could exchange credits for some materials and tools, to reinforce his dormitory. Just then, a white, misty light suddenly appeared before his eyes. The light moved silently, sketching out a pattern similar to a Taiji symbol. After a while, the Taiji symbol that had appeared in Luo Yan's pupils began to dissipate, but it didn't completely disappear. The white light sank deep into Luo Yan's blood-red eyes. It turned into tiny, dust-like silver symbols that constantly changed. These symbols distributed around his eyeballs. After 1 or 2 seconds, the symbols stabilized. They stopped changing. Then, the white light faded away, and there was no further anomaly. Luo Yan was stunned for a moment, vaguely feeling that this was related to the rhombus-shaped white jade he had absorbed along the way. Because that piece of white jade had also manifested the same pattern. He was filled with doubt but couldn't understand it for now, so he set it aside. Leaving the dormitory, Luo Yin saw many students checking out their rooms. Some exclaimed, while others smiled wryly. He walked along the corridor wall, intending to go to the logistics department. Suddenly he stopped. Ahead, a fat, burly figure. It was the fat guy whose head he had cracked open before the academy test. The fat guy's name was Qin Yongsong, who had luckily scored 83 points, making him one of the passers. He also saw Luo Yin. Remembering how Luo Yin had used his blood to bait the wolf ticks, his anger surged. He restrained himself and glared fiercely at Luo Yin before diving into his dormitory. The dormitory was a 4-person room, with 2 bunk beds. Qin Yongsong threw his luggage on the upper bunk but sat on the lower bunk himself, clearly intending to take up both levels. At this moment, his roommates entered. They were Li Jia and Xiao Yun. One scored 81 points, the other 85 points. The 3 had similar scores, so they were assigned to the same room. After closing the door, the 3 introduced themselves. Then the slender Li Jia took the initiative and said, "Qin Yongsong, do you want to meet someone important?" Qin Yongsong was in a bad mood and replied irritably, "What important person?" Liu Bei-chun, the son of the owner of Qiming Heavy Industries. Qin Yongsong's head shot up. In Guangling City, no one didn't know about Qiming Heavy Industries. This was the construction group responsible for most of the city's infrastructure and public facilities. Moreover, the owner of Qiming Heavy Industries, Luo Tianyi, had invested heavily this year to run for the position of city lord. His biggest competitor was Commander Di Zheng of the Surface Exploration Corps. The fact that the son of such a prominent figure was in the same cohort. Qin Yongsong, coming from a humble background, immediately stood up and plastered on a smile. "So what are we waiting for?" A moment later, in a double dormitory, Qin Yongsong met Liu Bei-chun. The latter immediately offered fine wine as a treat. After 3 cups, Liu Bei-chun smiled and said, "Yongsong, there's something I want to ask you to help with." Qin Yongsong was flattered. "Brother Liu, what is it?" "I want to teach Luo Yin a lesson." Liu Bei-chun's expression was calm. Qin Yongsong immediately guessed that this might be related to Luo Tianyi's campaign for city lord. After all, that Luo Yin was introduced by Commander Di Zheng, and Di Zheng was Luo Tianyi's biggest rival. "Brother Liu, how do you want to do it?" Qin Yongsong knew this was a rare opportunity. He knew what he was made of. Although he had managed to get into the academy, standing out here was no easy task. If he could do this for Liu Bei-chun, naturally, Liu Bei-chun would look after him in the future, at least ensuring he had no worries about food and clothing. Liu Bei-chun picked up his wine glass, his eyes cold. Cripple him, or even accidentally kill him. Qin Yongsong gasped. He didn't expect Liu Bei-chun to go so far. "What, afraid?" Liu Bei-chun looked at the fat guy indifferently. Qin Yongsong forced a smile. "Brother Liu, is this appropriate?" "Don't worry, as long as you don't rat me out afterward. Even if they throw you in prison, I'll get you out. You don't think I can do that?" Liu Bei-chun chuckled and took a small sip of his fine wine. Beside him, Li Jia and Xiao Yun chimed in. "Yongsong, don't forget how that guy Luo Yin used you during the academy test, right? He used your blood to bait the wolf ticks to their deaths, while he passed easily. But do you know what others say about you? They all say you're an idiot, used by a savage, and still had the nerve to enroll." Qin Yongsong's old wounds were exposed, and he became furious. He downed the rest of his wine and said grimly, "Brother Liu, I'll do it." And so the matter was settled. After the 3 left, Liu Bei-chun's roommate, a delicate-looking young man, cautiously asked, "Brother Liu, shouldn't we inform the old man about this?" Liu Bei-chun gently swirled his wine glass. Luo Yin was recommended by Di Zheng. He even got the highest score in the academy test. Why do you think Di Zheng did that? He's showing everyone his insight, proving that he can lead Guangling to glory. So I want to deal with this savage named Luo Yin, to boost my father's campaign. Besides, killing a savage from the surface. What's the difference between that and squashing an ant? Would you tell your parents if you squashed an ant? After saying this, he glanced at his roommate. The delicate young man quickly offered compliments, not daring to mention informing Luo Tianyi again. When Luo Yin returned to his dormitory, he had an extra backpack. He had exchanged credits at the logistics department for a dose of red poison inhibitor, as well as miscellaneous items like steel wire, a portable grinder, and other tools. The former cost him 2 credits. The latter, a whole bunch of stuff, only cost 1 credit. The inhibitor could suppress the red poison, preventing it from worsening or flaring up. But the effect would only last for a month. Spending 1 credit a month to suppress the red poison, Luo Yin thought it was a good deal. Back in his dormitory, after closing the door, Luo Yin began working. He used the portable grinder to process the steel wire, sharpening its edges. The process was tedious, but Luo Yin had done more tedious work in his 3 years on the surface. As long as it could keep him alive, he was willing to do anything. Time passed in the repetitive work. Luo Yin suddenly noticed, perhaps it was an illusion, but the section of steel wire he was grinding showed a number, 86. And as the edge of the wire turned red, thinned, and sharpened, the number continued to rise. 909, 4100. Luo Yin immediately stopped. He looked elsewhere. When his gaze fell on the floor-to-ceiling window, he instantly got the data. 5 meters wide, 2 meters high. Looking at other furniture, more and more numbers popped up in Luo Yin's vision. Besides length and width, there was now height, tilt, thickness. A flood of data from who knows where made his eyes burn with discomfort. Luo Yin quickly closed his eyes. After a while, he reopened them. Looking around, no numbers appeared. This Luo Yin tried to activate his clairvoyant eye. Soon, his eyes felt slightly hot. Everything in his vision became transparent, leaving only some lines, and near these lines that outlined objects, numbers began to appear again. Luo Yin was both shocked and delighted. He was certain that his clairvoyant eye had undergone some kind of change, but he didn't know where this change had come from. Suddenly, Luo Yin remembered the previous Taiji symbol. He quickly found a mirror. Looking into it, in his blood-red eyes, there was now a ring of silver dots around the irises. This was an abnormal phenomenon that hadn't existed before, and when he looked at himself in the mirror, Luo Yin saw his own gray life energy. But unlike before, there were now additional colors within this human-shaped life energy. One was a ring of fiery red, the other a ring of bright yellow. 2 different lights. When Luo Yin focused on the fiery red ring, a number 108 appeared nearby. And when he looked at the bright yellow ring, another number 97 appeared. What did these 2 numbers represent? Or rather, what did the fiery red and bright yellow lights mean? Luo Yin closed his eyes, deactivating his clairvoyant eye. He was now certain that his eye technique had mutated. While retaining its original functions, it had added the ability to see through obstacles and digitize his vision, especially the latter, being able to obtain detailed, precise numbers. Additionally, the gray life light now had 2 different colored lights. That must symbolize something important. He could ask the teacher about it after class tomorrow. But the rhombus-shaped white jade, the Taiji symbol, and the mutation of his eye technique. There must be a connection between the 3. It seemed that the reason his eye technique mutated was related to that white jade. What exactly was that thing? Luo Yin shook his head, habitually setting aside the problem he couldn't figure out. He secured the sharpened steel wire near the floor-to-ceiling window. Then he arranged other security measures. He kept busy until evening. Night fell. Qin Yongsong, Li Jia, and Xiao Yun quietly left their dormitory. They circled around, coming to the vicinity of Luo Yan's dormitory. Looking at the floor-to-ceiling window from a distance, Qin Yongsong took out a bottle of wine, gulped it down, then poured the rest on himself. He reeked of alcohol. I say, are you sure this plan will work? Qin Yongsong asked his roommates uncertainly. Li Jia grinned. Guaranteed to work. You go in and mess him up, and we'll arrive just in time. Xiao Yun nodded. We'll just say you were drunk, acting out of control, and had no intention to harm anyone. After hearing this, Qin Yongsong nodded, pulled out a dagger. This was sent over by Liu Beichan. Very sharp. A swipe across the neck, and it would be over. After finishing the instructions, Qin Yongsong, reeking of alcohol, sneaked over to the floor-to-ceiling window, gritted his teeth, and charged. Crashing into the window, the sound of glass breaking rang out. Chen Yongsong had already entered the room, but just as he was inside, he suddenly felt a chill on his neck, as if something had brushed past. He didn't think much of it. Immediately lunging at the bed by the window, Chen Yongsong raised the dagger, about to stab the bed. But at that moment, his vision suddenly plummeted. The next second, he saw the floor, under the bed, and he saw a pair of eyes. A pair of blood-red eyes. Luo Yin wasn't on the bed. He was under it. Chen Yongsong's scalp went numb, wanting to scream, but no sound came out, and his vision froze, then gradually dimmed. Finally, it lost all light. In the student dormitory, one by one, lights turned on. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Outside, Li Jia and Xiao Yun hurriedly squeezed through the open floor-to-ceiling window, shouting all the while, "Chen Yongsong, are you okay? We told you not to drink so much, but you wouldn't listen. Now you're drunk, aren't you?" They stepped on the scattered glass, under the dim glow of the streetlights outside. They saw Chen Yongsong's back facing them. Then, the fat body collapsed to the ground with a thud. A fountain of blood sprayed out, painting a fan-shaped area red. Then, Li Jia and Xiao Yun finally saw that Chen Yongsong's head had fallen to the side of the bed, his eyes staring straight under the bed, and right before their eyes, a thin steel wire stretched across, with blood droplets still dripping from it. Moments later, two sharp screams echoed from Luo Yan's room. Bang, bang, bang. There was a knock on the door. The voice of the dormitory supervisor came from outside the door. "Student Luo, how are you? What happened?" Li Jia and Xiao Yun both looked towards the bed. However, a figure emerged from under the bed. Luo Yin, Li and Xiao were stunned. Why is this person sleeping under the bed? Does he know what Chen Yongsong is going to do at night? Of course, Luo Yin doesn't have such great ability. Just being cautious. In addition, when he was surviving on the surface, he always slept in a small place. Now let him sleep in the big bed. Not used to it. Luo Yin glanced at Li Xiao and the others. Without saying a word, he turned and opened the door. The door opened and the dormitory supervisor walked in. There were other students behind who were awakened and came to watch the fun. As soon as the dormitory supervisor entered the room, he saw the tragic state of Chen Yongsong's body and head separated from each other on the ground. He quickly closed the door, but many students still vaguely caught a glimpse of the bloodstains on the floor. The dormitory supervisor looked around and took in the scene in the room, his eyes focused on the blood-stained steel wire in the air and the dagger in Chen Yongsong's hand. Then he asked, "What's going on?" Li Jia reacted, jumped up and pointed at Luo Yin. "Teacher, Luo Yin killed someone." Xiao Yuan also came to his senses and joined the camp. "Yes, Luo Yin killed Chen Yongsong. We saw it with our own eyes." Luo Yin snorted. "With your own eyes? Then you tell me. Which hand did I use to kill Chen Yongsong?" Li and Xiao were speechless. But then he said, "Wire. You pulled a steel wire and cut Chen Yongsong's neck." The dormitory supervisor looked at Luo Yin. Luo Yin calmly asked, "Where's the wire?" Li Jia pointed at what was in front of him and said, "Nonsense. Isn't it right here?" "Yes, the wire is by the window, instead of by the door." Why did Chen Yongsong break in through the window instead of just going through the door? Luo Yin looked at the dagger in the corpse's hand again. He is still carrying the murder weapon. It is obvious that he has evil intentions. He deserves to die. Li and Xiao were speechless again. The dormitory supervisor looked at the two people and asked, "What do you think Chen Yongsong wants to do?" The two of them stammered and answered, "During Chen Yongsong's college entrance examination, he was teased by Luo, and he was not convinced. He drank too much tonight, and his mind was hot. He wanted to teach Luo a lesson. Teacher, we have advised him, but I can't stop it." "I didn't expect that." The dormitory supervisor asked coldly, "Is that so? If I find out that you are lying, the academy will punish you severely." Li Jia's face turned pale, but he still said, "We are telling the truth." The dormitory supervisor then said, "You guys go back first. The academy will handle this matter. Just mind your own business." Li and Xiao agreed, lowered their heads and left through the French window. The teacher asked Luo Yin to move to another dormitory, and at the same time he pulled down a sheet and covered the corpse. After Luo Yin arrived at the new dormitory, he did not fall asleep immediately. A smile played on his lips. He finally understood what the fiery red light represented. Tonight, Chen Yongsong broke in through the window. In response, Luo Yin activated his qi-seeing pupil and saw Chen Yongsong under the bed. In his gray light, there was a circle of fiery red light, and the number 127 appeared. But just when Chen Yongsong was beheaded by the steel wire that had been polished to be as sharp as a knife, his circle of fiery red light quickly dimmed, and the group of numbers returned to 0 instantly. Qi and blood, or life. That circle of fiery red light represents the vitality of living things. Find out what that circle of fiery red light represents. Luo Yin was very happy. This means that he has a better understanding of his transformed pupil technique. Then he thought of Chen Yongsong. Is he really here to trouble me because of what happened during the day? Luo Yin recalled the reactions of Li Jia and Xiao Yun. Then he silently turned off the lights in the room. After Li Jia and Xiao Yuan returned to their dormitory, both of them looked unhappy. That Luo guy is so scary. No, he is just a lunatic. Who would set a trap like that in a dormitory? Li Jia shook his head and said, Old Xiao, I think we should stop interfering in Luo Ji's affairs. I think so too. After they reached a consensus, they turned off the lights and went to bed. I don't know how long it took. Li Jia felt like someone slapped him on the face. He opened his eyes dazedly. Who is it? Suddenly, he shuddered. There was a person sitting at the head of the bed. There was a light in the other person's pocket, and it seemed that there was a mobile phone in it with the screen on. In addition, he felt a chill on his neck. He rolled his eyes and looked over. A steel wire was wrapped around his neck. He almost peed himself. Then I heard the man at the bedside say, Who told you to do this? Li Jia immediately recognized that this was Luo Yan's voice. He couldn't help but cry, Student Luo, please don't mess around. What instructions? No one is instructing me. It's Chen Yongsong who is confused. After saying this, he didn't hear Luo Yin speak again. But I felt the wire around my neck tightening. Li Jia suddenly thought of Chen Yongsong's headless body. Mr. Luo, what do you want to do? Stop it. Stop it. The wire continued to tighten. Li Jia felt its coldness. He seemed to see the call of death. Madman. This guy named Luo is a lunatic. He broke down. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. It was Luo Beichen. Luo Beichen told us to do this. He was the one who asked Chen Yongsong to kill you. It's none of our business. He is Luo Tiany's son. Luo Tiany is going to run for the next city lord. His biggest competitor is Commander Di Zhang, who recommended you for admission. After learning the truth of the matter, Luo Yin said no more and silently tightened the wire around Li Jia's neck. Li Jia struggled immediately, but not long after. His eyes bulged out and he died on the spot. Then he walked to Xiao Yuan's bed. Do the same. After dealing with the scene, Luo Yin left. After a moment, he returned to his room and called Soldier Shaoli. After the call was connected, Shaoli was very surprised. It's so late. What happened? Luo Yin simply said, Luo Beichen planned to kill me. The people he sent fell into the trap I set and died. There was silence on the other end of the phone. Then Shaoli said, Wait a moment. Then he hung up the phone. Not long after, Luo Yan's cell phone rang. After he answered the call, Di Zheng's voice came through the phone. Do you have any evidence? Luo Yin played a recording. When he was interrogating Li Xiao and the others just now, he did not forget to record it. After listening, Di Zheng said in a deep voice, I will warn the Luo family. You can sleep peacefully. Warning? Luo Yin was not very satisfied. Di Zheng heard his tone was different. What do you think? Luo Yin said calmly, You said that if someone wants to kill me, you can kill first and report later. I have already dealt with those two people just now. I want to know, what should Luo Beichen do? There was silence. Then Di Zheng asked, You want to kill him? I don't like being remembered by others. Luo Yin answered truthfully. Di Zheng decisively said, Okay, you kill the person and I'll take care of the aftermath. But you can't just come and kill them like this. This is not the surface after all. The academy has its own rules. Luo Yin asked, What are the rules? Di Zheng said, In the academy, if you want to settle personal grudges, you can set up a duel. The ring is divided into a fighting ring or a death ring. In the martial arts arena, weapons, and potions are not allowed. You must undergo an inspection by the academy before going on stage. It's a fair fight, but a martial arts competition only determines victory or defeat, not life or death. After the fight, all grudges are settled. There are no limits in the death arena, and the fight continues until death. But even if you win, you will still be punished and have your credits deducted. Luo Yin didn't even think twice and said, "Okay, I'll fight to the death." Don't underestimate Luo Beichen. Dijong reminded, his father, Luo Tianyi, is the boss of Qiming Heavy Industries. He is a big shot in Guangling City. If you win the match, he will definitely find a lot of resources for his son to squander. Luo Yin said calmly, "It's okay. You will definitely not let me lose." Dijong chuckled into the phone. "I have already sent you a text message about Luo Beichen's information. There should be some information in there that can help you." After Dijong finished speaking, he hung up the phone. Not long after, text messages came in one after another. Looking at this information, Luo Yin narrowed his eyes slightly and had an idea in his mind. The next day, after breakfast, gather at the clubhouse. Then 65 freshmen were taken to a lecture hall. The head teacher, Wei Fenghua, came in with a male teacher. "This is Mr. Xiao Shi. Mr. Xiao is in charge of everyone's general knowledge class. Please get ready. Mr. Xiao will start teaching." Also, something unexpected happened last night. Several students were unable to attend class. The pale-faced young man next to Luo Beichen asked, "Teacher, is this really an accident?" He looked at Luo Yin and said, "Could it be that someone deliberately killed someone? Or maybe it's because Commander Dijong recommended him. So even if you kill someone, you can pretend nothing happened. That would be too scary." Luo Yin didn't move at all. After hearing what the pale-faced young man said, many students began to discuss in a low voice. "Is that so? Isn't the academy too biased?" "No, this is no longer partiality. It's a cover-up." Luo Beichen sneered in his heart. Li Jia and Xiao Yuan came to report the situation last night. Learned that Qin Yongsong was killed in a counterattack. He was quite shocked. But then I thought, it's better that Qin Yongsong is dead. It was a good opportunity to incite classmates and use Luo Yin to discredit Dijong. This trick was very successful. Last night, it is true that many students saw bloodstains in Luo Yan's room. Some people even saw the college security carrying a dead body out of Luo Yan's dormitory. Now, everyone looked at Luo Yan. A look of fear. They all distanced themselves from him. There were only two people who did not move. A man and a woman. The man was Li Bohong, the clean young man who wanted to form a team with Luo Yin yesterday. The girl was wearing headphones and reading a book, seemingly not caring about what was happening in the classroom. Wei Fenghua couldn't help but frown. He knew what happened last night. It is also known that Xiao Yuan and Li Jia, who were involved, both committed suicide. Dijong informed the college about this matter overnight and showed the recording. The college has made a decision but has not yet announced it. Now let Luo Beichen make a fuss about it. This made Wei Fenghua very dissatisfied. He was about to speak, but a voice was heard. "Luo Beichen, is this all you have?" Luo Yanan sat still. Without even turning his head, he said, "You only dare to hide behind the scenes and do things that are shameful to others. With this kind of vision, it's no wonder that Luo Tianyi values your brother Luo Nanqing. No way. If I were Luo Tianyi, I wouldn't fall for a piece of trash." Luo Beichen was originally secretly pleased and complacent. Upon hearing this, his expression suddenly twisted. The pale-faced young man next to him was startled. He knew that Luo Nanqing was a taboo for Luo Beichen. If anyone mentions Luo Nanqing in front of him, at the very least, you will be insulted. In serious cases, they were beaten violently. Really, when Luo Beichen heard this, he could no longer bear it. He stood up and shouted, "What did you say?" Luo Yin said calmly, "Don't tell me you don't know. In Guangling City, everyone knows that Luo Tianyi values Luonan Star and regards it as a treasure. As for you, Luo Beichen, it's just a joke." Luo Yin rarely talks so much. But today, in order to anger Luo Beichen, I have to make an exception this time. You're looking for death. Luo Beichen suddenly lost his mind. Just pounce on it. The pale-faced young man tried desperately to stop him. "Don't be fooled, Luo Gu. He is deliberately trying to provoke you." Luo Beichen finally regained some of his rationality. He pointed at Luo Yin and said, "You slandered me. I won't just let it go. I want to challenge you to a fight, and I'll fight you to the death." When they heard about the death contest, many students looked confused. Wei Fenghua frowned slightly. He glanced at Luo Yin. Luo Yin raised his head at this time, with the corners of his mouth slightly raised. "Good. Hit now." Luo Beichen laughed and said, "No need to be so anxious. It won't be too late to fight again in a month. When the time comes, I want you to die clearly." He needs time to prepare. In addition, although he had issued a declaration of war to Luo Yin, Luo Beichen could not guarantee that he would not do anything during this period. If something happens to Luo Yin and he dies, he won't be able to go on the ring. He wouldn't mind. Luo Yin thought about it, looked at him and said, "It's a deal." So the matter was settled. In the classroom, students take their seats again. From the conversation between Luo Beichen and Luo Yin, they had already vaguely guessed it. Chen Yongsong's affairs are probably related to Luo Beichen. Luo Beichen also used this incident to incite and take advantage of them. This made them look at Luo Beichen with a hint of anger. Luo Beichen didn't care about it. He was more concerned about how to kill Luo Yin. At the podium, Wei Fenghua looked at Luo Yin deeply. He coughed twice and said to Xiao Shi, "Teacher Xiao, I'll leave this to you." Xiao Shi looks ordinary, but he has a scholarly air. Hearing this, he smiled and nodded. After Wei Fenghua left the classroom, the young teacher coughed dryly, said with a smile, "Hello everyone, my name is Xiao Shi. I'm here to give you a general knowledge lesson. The main purpose of opening this course is to let everyone know more about giant beast disaster, Yambu space, and visualization technique, etc." After saying that, he started to operate the computer on the podium. The curtain was lowered on the blackboard, and then the windows of the classroom were closed one by one. As the light dimmed, images appeared on the projection screen. Those are some photos. It turned out to be the frozen corpse of a giant beast. This is the first behemoth remains found half a century ago, and we call it Zero. Number Zero was discovered in the polar region, and its appearance caused a sensation in the archaeological community. Using modern instruments, we analyzed its age and came to a conclusion. Number Zero is older than the dinosaurs. But if that's all, it would just be a feast for the archaeological community. Xiaoshi switched a few more photos. From the photo, it looked like a huge hole. Right where Number Zero was found, a national archaeological team continued to dig. "I want to dig up more remains of the giant beast. I didn't expect that I would open the door to another world. It was also in that world that we discovered many things, including the visualization technique, due to time constraints. There is also knowledge about that world, giant beast disaster, Yambu space, etc. I will tell you more about this in future courses. Next, I will focus on talking to you about the visualization technique." Xiao Shi clicked a button on the keyboard, and a new photo appeared on the projection screen. They are all stone slabs, stone tablets, and gray ancient books. These are some of the gains from that world at that time. And they are also the prototypes of the visualization technique that you have already learned or will learn in the future. Visualization can stimulate human potential, change our physical constitution, and gain a kind of energy called elemental power. We use mean as the unit to measure the strength of this energy. In addition, we can also use this energy to release some special abilities. We'll talk about this later. Xiao Shi turned off the projector and opened the window. He smiled and looked at each student. Let's get back to the topic of visualization. Most students should know that learning the art of visualization should be done step by step. People who are new to the visualization technique need to practice the basic technique, which is the essence building technique. It can stimulate the potential of the human body and awaken the potential energy in our bodies. It will circulate throughout the limbs and bones. When the practice is complete, the energy will break through the heavenly spirit. From now on, we can sense the existence of the energy of heaven and earth, thus entering the next stage of cultivation, the opening stage. As Xiao Shi spoke, he looked at Luo Yin meaningfully. When the Yuan building is complete and the important acupoints such as the heavenly spirit are opened, one's own divine treasure will also be awakened. God is both spirit and soul. Hide as a treasure. The treasure of the spirit is the treasure in the soul. You can think of it as talent. Everyone has innate talents, but they don't discover or develop them. Maybe I won't wake up until the day I die. Opening the important acupoint of the heavenly spirit will also open the treasure hidden deep within your souls. After a pause, Xiaoshi turned around. Several words were written on the blackboard one after another. Supersense, superbody, anatomy, natural, mystery. He turned around and smiled. This is the system we came up with after collecting, analyzing, and classifying the divine treasures. At this time, a student raised his hand and said, "Teacher, I have a question. Why do mecha pilots need to practice visualization? Shouldn't we pay more attention to the operation of the mecha?" Xiaoshi nodded. Good question. I wanted to say this last. Since you asked, I'll tell everyone in advance. Why do pilots need to learn the visualization technique? It's because of the mecha's empathy system. This system allows the mecha to establish a neural connection with the pilot. It enables the mecha to move according to the pilot's thoughts. The mecha is like your body. As long as your brain issues a command, it can achieve synchronized movement through the empathy system. In addition, the empathy system has a more important function. It can reproduce and even amplify the pilot's own strength and skills. In other words, the stronger your power, the richer your skills. Then these powers and skills are not only it can be realized through mechas, and it will reach a level you can't imagine. Xiaoshi smiled and said, you can simply think of mechas as weapons. The stronger the person, the greater the power of the weapon. Also, lower and middle-level monsters can be killed with guns, cannons, missiles, and the like. But above the advanced level, only the energy can break the defense and kill. This is why pilots need to practice visualization. Hear this. Luo Yin suddenly realized. Finally, I know why the mecha controlled by Di Zhang was able to burst out at such an astonishing speed on the way back. Why did those soldiers say at that time that it was the result of Di Zhang displaying his own divine hidden ability through the empathy system through the mecha? After answering students' questions, Xiaoshi continued to explain the differences between the 5 types of shunzong. Unconsciously, the bell for the end of class rang. Xiaoshi had just finished explaining the last type of shunzong. He smiled and said, "That's all for today's class. You will start practicing visualization in the afternoon. Teacher Wei Fenghua will announce your assigned instructors in a moment. Well, students, see you next class." At this time, a classmate shouted, "Stand up and salute." "Thank you, teacher." After class, we took a 10-minute break. The director of the teaching department, Wei Fenghua, is here again. He announced the mentors assigned to everyone. What surprised Luo Yin was that his mentor was actually Wei Fenghua. Moreover, he was the only student. One-on-one teaching. Taking this opportunity, Wei Fenghua also announced the results of the handling of the Chen Yongsong incident last night. This matter was ultimately handled as an accident. The college ordered Luo Yin to remove all the traps in the dormitory to prevent tragedy from happening again. At the same time, security in the dormitory area will be strengthened to ensure the safety of students. At last, Luo Yin deducted 20 credits as punishment. Class is over. As soon as Luo Yin left the classroom, he was stopped by Wei Fenghua. "Come with me." Wei Fenghua left after saying this. Luo Yin had no choice but to follow. Came to a quiet pond. Wei Fenghua asked directly, "Did Dijing tell you about the existence of the death arena?" "Just now. Did you deliberately provoke Luo Beichen to make him propose a death challenge?" Luo Yin did not hide it and nodded. He thought about it last night. If he had taken the initiative to propose a fight to the death, Luo Beichen might not have been fooled. So he took advantage of Luo Beichen's character weaknesses. Bring up his taboos in public. Make the other party angry and upset. Actively propose a death challenge. However, at that time, Luo Yin was more expecting Luo Beichen to pounce on him. That way he could kill him by accident. One or two of them are both worrying. Wei Fenghua shook his head, then looked at Luo Yin and said, "Did Dijing tell you that even if you win the death contest, you will still lose credits?" "Yes." Luo Yin answered honestly. Wei Fenghua asked, "Even so, you still want to fight?" "Hit." Luo Yin responded simply. Wei Fenghua smiled and said, "Okay, then I know how to teach you. Let's go eat. Don't be late this afternoon." After saying that, He coughed twice and left. Luo Yin was a little surprised. He thought Wei Fenghua would scold him or stop him. As a result, he was trying to figure out his own feelings. Decide how to teach. Interesting, Luo Yin whispered. Then he followed the signs and found the school cafeteria. Here, he met more students. They are all sophomores and juniors in the college. It seems that the news of Luo Yin and Luo Beichen's fight to the death has spread. As soon as he appeared, many eyes were cast over. There are all kinds of meanings here. Luo Yin turned a blind eye and went straight to the food window. At a table that Luo Yin passed by, someone sneered, "He Hao, look at this grade of freshmen. They are quite arrogant." The young man called He Hao was eating. He looked up when he heard this and said unhappily, "Whether he has someone in his eyes or not is none of my business." The man was tall and strong, with strong features on his face. He has short hair and a tough look. There was a lot of rice on his face, which looked a little funny. The classmate next to him chuckled and said, "Your He family is being suppressed by our Commander D so much that he can't even raise his head. I remember you always said you would make Commander D look bad after graduation. Why? Changed your mind?" He Hao slammed the bowl on the table and said, "No changes. But I have principles. I don't bully freshmen. If he really kills Luo, then I will play with him." A female classmate opposite said, "If he really kills Luo Beichen, then I advise you to give up on this idea. Be careful. You might end up playing yourself to death while playing." He Hao snorted, didn't respond, and continued to eat. Afternoon. Luo Yin came to the designated training hall. Wei Fenghua has arrived. The teacher seemed to be in poor health and coughed a few times. Then he said, "You have already opened up, so you don't need to learn building origin art anymore. You can directly practice the elementary visualization technique. There are many basic visualization techniques, and the technique I'm going to teach you is called viewing mountains and seas." Luo Yin looked at the mentor. Watching the mountains and the sea, Wei Fenghua coughed twice and said, "Although each technique is similar, it has different focuses. Some emphasize quick success, and it is not impossible to achieve a breakthrough in one day. Some focus on the amount of energy. The more energy you have, the longer your endurance will be. As for viewing mountains and seas, the emphasis is on the basics. As the saying goes, a tall building starts from the ground. When practicing this method, you may make slower progress than others at first. But the advantage is that the foundation is solid, and it will become easier to practice as you go along." Cough, cough, cough. Suddenly, Wei Fenghua had a violent cough. He quickly took out a bottle of inhaler, took a sip, and then spoke. "I will now formally explain how to practice viewing the mountains and seas. Please do not interrupt. If you have any questions, I'll give you time to ask them later." Without waiting for Luo Yan's response, Wei Fenghua took out a remote control and pressed it, and the big screen on the wall of the training hall lit up. A picture scroll appeared on the screen. It looks like an enlarged version of some kind of mural. In the painting, the mountains are thousands of feet high and undulating. The sea is boundless and the waves are blue. The mountains are in front and the sea is behind. Mountains and sea complement each other. Magnificent. Wei Fenghua said, "Write down this picture. When you practice, visualize this picture in your mind. But at this stage, the focus is on the mountain. Focus on visualizing those strange peaks and mountain shapes. Contemplate the calmness and majesty of the mountains. This will help you to precipitate your energy and allow it to blend into your skin, flesh, tendons, bones, and even all the organs in your body. When you develop the aura of mountains as high as 1,000 peaks and 10,000 ridges, you have reached the perfect level of elementary visualization. Then you can make a breakthrough and enter the stage of observing the sea, which is the practice of intermediate visualization techniques." Next, Wei Fenghua instructed Luo Jing on how to coordinate his breathing during visualization, how to sense the energy of heaven and earth, and how to guide it into his body through breathing techniques. This lecture, he spoke for nearly 2 hours. During this period, Luo Yin kept his mentor's instructions in mind. No interruptions. Even if you have doubts, keep them in your heart. In short, the viewing mountains and seas set of exercises can allow you to complete the elementary and intermediate levels of cultivation. Okay, that's all I have to say. If you have any questions, please ask. After saying that, Wei Fenghua started coughing again. Luo Yin did not ask any questions immediately. He walked silently to the side of the training hall. He took a folding chair, opened it, and placed it next to Wei Fenghua. Wei Fenghua took a look at the chair and sat down without any hesitation. Luo Yin then raised the question. How many levels are there in visualization? How many levels are there in each level? Do different levels of visualization require different techniques? He asked 7 or 8 questions in total. Wei Fenghua smiled and said, according to our discoveries in that world, the visualization technique is divided into the realms of building the essence, opening the orifices, and gathering the sea. But we felt it was too complicated, so we changed it to basic, elementary, intermediate, and advanced levels. Above the advanced level, there are levels like Tongxian, Kiren, and Huayu. But it's still too early for you to get in touch with these things, so I won't go into details for now. As for the levels, each level is divided into 5 levels and 1 perfection. But even if you don't cultivate to perfection, you can still break through. It depends on the situation, and you can be flexible. Different levels do require the practice of different techniques. However, the academy can only teach advanced skills at best, and you need to meet certain conditions. As for the latter ones, you need to go through other channels, or even explore that world, to have a hope of obtaining them. Wei Fenghua answered Luo Yan's questions one by one. Luo Yan wrote it down and nodded. I'm fine. Then start practicing. Under Wei Fenghua's gaze, Luo Yan used the method he had just taught him. Consciously control your breathing while visualizing the magnificent landscape of mountains and sea in your mind. At first, he had to do 2 things at once. Either his breathing rhythm was wrong, or he couldn't maintain the picture in his mind. Wei Fenghua patiently helped him correct his mistakes. Gradually, Luo Yin found the trick. My breathing gradually changed, and at the same time I could feel a hint of warmth in the air nearby, slowly seeping into my body and flowing throughout my body. Following his instructor's instructions, Luo Yin consciously directed these auras toward his skin. Let them penetrate every inch of your skin. When Luo Yin was concentrating on practicing, he did not notice that his skin was glowing slightly and had a slight rocky texture. I don't know how long it took. Luo Yin heard Wei Fenghua's reminder, it's okay. Thus ended the first training after entering school. He found that his body was already wet with sweat, and the sweat is sour and smells fishy. Wei Fenghua stood up and said, go back and take a shower. Then you can practice on your own. Tell me when you reach the elementary 2nd level. Luo Yin raised his hand and asked, how do you know that you have reached this 2nd level of beginners? Wei Fenghua coughed twice and said lightly, you'll know when you get there. Remember, for this 1st level of practice, you must allow the energy to completely penetrate every inch of your skin. First the limbs, then the torso, and eventually every part of the body must be penetrated by the energy. Don't even let your eyelids fall. Luo Yin nodded and took note. After leaving the training hall, he returned to the dormitory alone. I saw many classmates returning along the way. Most of the people had smiles on their faces. Obviously, the afternoon classes were fruitful. When he arrived at the dormitory area, he saw Luo Beichen, who smiled and nodded at Luo Yin. It looked like forgetting the unpleasantness of the morning. Luo Yin ignored him, walked along the wall, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Luo Beichen withdrew his gaze, smiled, and walked into the dormitory. At this time his cell phone rang. Just then, the pale-faced young man came in. Luo Beichen glanced at him. The latter slapped his head and said, oops, I think I dropped something. He turned and left, not forgetting to close the door. Luo Beichen then took a deep breath and answered the phone. The call was from Luo Tianyi. Luo Beichen called out Dad, but there was no sound from the other end of the phone. After a few seconds, Luo Tianyi's voice sounded. Madness. Luo Beichen's expression changed slightly, but he did not respond. Luo Tianyi continued, who asked you to meddle in other people's business? Do I need your help? You're helping me a lot if you study hard. You are so good. On the first day of school, you are already planning to kill someone. Do you really think that you can defeat Dizhang by killing a wild boy from the surface? If he was so easy to bring down, he would have fallen long ago. After a talk, Luo Tianyi was silent again. Then he said, you are not your eldest brother. You don't have his vision and ability. So I never asked too much of you. Why can't you even do this? Luo Beichen's face suddenly turned red. His breathing became rapid, and he gritted his teeth. But still no words were uttered. Luo Tianyi continued, "Forget it. You are already going to die, so I won't say anything. I will try my best to give you resources, but remember, if you lose in the ring, you will be slaughtered. That's your choice. I will not, and cannot, avenge you afterwards. Or, let me arrange for you to drop out of school?" Luo Beichen then said gloomily, "I won't drop out of school. I know you've always looked down on me. I will change your mind. Right here." He pointed hard at the ground. "Good." Luo Tianyi left a few brief words and hung up the phone. Luo Beichen put away his phone and adjusted his expression. He was already laughing when there was a knock on the door. "Come in." The next day, there are still cultural classes during the day. This time it was a female teacher. She looked to be in her early 30s, with her long hair tied into a high ponytail. There was tape on his face, and he was wearing a vest with his shirt tied around his waist. He also wore a pair of work gloves on his hands. Looks like he just came down from his workbench. "My name is Zhaoidan, and I'm in charge of your Mecha General Knowledge class." The female teacher was writing some words on the blackboard. Skeleton, joints, armor, engine, power source. After writing, she turned around and threw the chalk away. Then he said, "The skeleton of a mecha is similar to the bones of an animal or the keel of a ship. It is used to support the mecha's shape and is the internal main structure that drives the mecha's movement. It determines the mecha's activities to a great extent. In combat, a mature pilot must consciously protect the mecha's frame. We would rather the outer armor be damaged or even destroyed than to protect the skeleton from damage or destruction. Because the outer armor is damaged, it only needs a simple repair or replacement to make the mecha as good as new. But if the skeleton is damaged, not only will the maintenance cost skyrocket, but in many cases, it is extremely difficult to repair. So, you little brats, pay attention to me. If you dare to damage the skeleton, I will kill you." Zhaoidan's eyes widened, and he looked furious. Tickets are very important during the release of a new book. Both monthly tickets and recommendation tickets are fine. Handsome men and beautiful women, please give me some food. The child is crying out for food. The Mecha Knowledge class ended. Luo Yin came to the cafeteria. I ordered some food and found an empty table to have lunch. He eats very slowly. This is a habit developed from life on the surface. During the 3 years of extreme material shortage, it was normal to have only a meal every 2 or 3 days. I was too hungry to eat quickly. Over time, even though the food in the college cafeteria is delicious, he doesn't eat fast. "Can I sit here?" A sound was heard. Luo Yin raised his head and saw the classmate named Li Bohong. The tall, thin, and clean young man sat down opposite him without waiting for Luo Yan's consent. The young man held out his hand. "Can I be your friend?" Luo Yin glanced at him and continued eating. Li Bohong was not angry, but smiled and said, "I admire your courage, whether it is fighting alone against the wolf tick or fighting to the death. But I admire you more for having lived on the surface for 3 years. That must have been very difficult, right? If it were me, I probably wouldn't be able to make it through a year. You're amazing." Luo Yin put down his chopsticks and continued eating. Li Bohong said to himself, "I know you don't want to make friends with others. When I first saw you, I thought you were the kind of person who liked to be alone. You believe in yourself more. But if you want to be a pilot, a mecha pilot, I just need friends. Whenever there is a mission, the mecha pilots basically have to go out as a team. There will be 3 to 4 mechas carrying out the mission at the same time. So if you want to complete the mission successfully, you need to integrate into the group. You need to learn to trust." Luo Yin listened but remained calm. He would not decide to make friends with Li Bohong just because of a few words from him. Friend. It's too luxurious for him. He had a wound on his chest, given to him by a so-called friend. Li Bohong smiled and started eating. While eating, he said, "I'll give you a suggestion. When you go to exchange for cultivation resources, don't exchange for the cloud water potion. Firstly, it is a potion used in conjunction with mid to high-level exercises. Secondly, each one requires 5 credits. Thirdly, in fact, its effect is only about 20% better than the tranquilizer. The nervous spirit potion can be used even when you are practicing intermediate-level techniques. It won't be too late to switch to the cloud water potion when you are practicing advanced techniques. The important thing is that the tranquilizing potion can be exchanged for only 1 credit, so it's good value for money. After that, Li Bohong finished his meal quietly, then packed up his things and stood up. I'm leaving first. I have a fighting class in the afternoon, so I have to go back and prepare. He turned around and suddenly heard Luo Yin whisper thank you. Li Bohong turned around and smiled. You're welcome. Luo Yin didn't thank him just to show his goodwill. It's just that people give you good advice, so whether you adopt it or not, you should say thank you. This is the principle. After Li Bohong left, Luo Yin finished the last bite of food and was about to leave. Suddenly, a man came over, glanced at Luo Yin, and chuckled. Are you the freshman recommended by Dijong? Luo Yin looked up and said coldly, 2 months later, the death match. If I am not dead. After saying that, he walked away. The man was stunned for a long time before he shouted, Wait a minute, is it necessary to do this? I'm just asking a question. I don't mean to cause you any trouble. Don't challenge me to a fight all the time. I won't fight. I'd rather die than fight. Luo Yin listened and left the restaurant without stopping. The man then shook his head and said, What a lunatic. In a blink of an eye, Luo Yin arrived at the underground city and had been in the academy for 2 weeks. In the past few days, this was the first time he practiced visualization under the guidance of a mentor. The first time I came into contact with combat skills and mystical arts. First time participating in empathy training, lots of firsts. Let him live these 2 weeks more excitingly than the past 18 years of his life. He also had a deeper understanding of his own abnormal pupil technique. For example, he now knows what the bright yellow circle and number on himself or others means. That represents the energy and the corresponding value. In addition, Luo Yin can also use his unusual pupil technique to observe the elemental energy between heaven and earth, be able to discover their distribution range and density. At last, in the practice of visualization, he felt that he was about to break through. After 2 weeks of practice, he had allowed his energy to penetrate his limbs and torso. Now only the center of the head is left. Now, in the training hall, Luo Yin picked up a bottle of inhaler with a light green shell. Tranquilizing potion. These days, Luo Yin would practice with the Ningxian potion every time. This medicine can calm the mind, strengthen communication and induction with the Yuan force, and improve the efficiency of cultivation. Each bottle of tranquility potion only costs 1 credit. Luo Yin has spent more than 10 credits these days, plus 3 credits spent on the first day of school. Chen Yongsong was deducted 20 credits for the previous incident. Luo Yin obtained 98 credits upon admission. Now there are only 48 credits left. Look at the freshmen of the same period. There are only a handful of students who can use the tranquilizing potion every time they practice. Most people can't be as extravagant as Luo Yin. Some people even think that Luo Yin is wasting credits. Luo Yin doesn't think so. He will fight to the death in 2 weeks, facing Luo Beichen, who has just as many resources as himself. If you still want to save these credits now, that's ridiculous. Calm your mind. Luo Yin exhaled slowly, then opened the potion and put it to his lips. Take a deep breath. Drain all the medicine in the bottle. Luo Yin suddenly entered a feeling of absolute tranquility. He keenly felt the omnipresent elemental force in the air around him. Then adopt a specific breathing method. Inhale the energy into the body along with the air. Move around. Retain the energy and exhale the air. Time passes. Gradually, beads of sweat the size of beans appeared on Luo Yan's head. They wet Luo Yan's hair, followed the lines of his face, and gathered at his chin. Drops falling down. Luo Yin felt that the skin all over his body was becoming tougher and tougher under the nourishment of Yuanli. Moreover, there is a stronger power hidden in the body, which is gradually bursting out. This force was soon hindered. It was as if there was an invisible barrier blocking it. Then it boils and explodes. Follow Luo Yin took a deep breath and brought more energy into the world. Let us gather together into this force. A breakthrough in one fell swoop. Break through the barrier. Suddenly, Luo Yan's whole body trembled. His muscles first tensed up, then slowly relaxed. Luo Yin felt an indescribable comfort. He opened his eyes, raised his hands, and watched his skin texture become finer and finer. Like the texture of rock, It exudes a sense of tenacity. He finally understood why Wei Fenghua said that when the time came for a breakthrough, he would know it himself. I see. This day, Luo Yin breaks through. Primary, second floor. On the way back to the dormitory, Luo Yin heard many classmates talking. What divine treasure did you awaken? Animal bear. And you? Me? Hey, I'm Ultraman Iron. It's very practical. And so on. Different from Luo Yin. Many freshmen begin to practice basic visualization techniques after they enter school. Most people have only awakened their divine treasures in the last 1 or 2 days. However, people like Luo Beichin should have already started practicing before entering school. I don't know what kind of divine treasure he will awaken. Suddenly Luo Yin stopped. Luo Beichin and a few students came from the front. The pale-faced young man beside him snorted and said loudly to Luo Yin, "Isn't this classmate Luo? Looks like you just came back from the training gym, right? Student Luo is very hardworking. How is your visualization technique? How far have you come? Have you practiced the mystical combat techniques? There are still 2 weeks until I go into the ring. Don't let our Luaga be scared to the point of peeing his pants." The people around Luo Beichin laughed in support. Luo Yin looked at them as if they were clowns. Suddenly, his eyes became blank. Luo Yin activated his own divine storage, the Qi-seeing pupil. Look, Luo Beichin's Qi and blood are 173, and his Yuanli is 124. Luo Yin compared himself. His Qi and blood are now at 207, and his Yuanli is far beyond what he had when he entered school, reaching an average of 149. This shows Luo Beichin should also have the strength of the second level of beginner level. However, the course I am studying is viewing mountains and seas, which emphasizes the basics. Whether in Qi, blood, or Yuanli, he is superior to the other party. Luo Yin looked at the pale-faced young man again. In the opponent's grayish-white light, the red light representing Qi and blood appeared dim, and the yellow light representing Yuanli was even fainter. The pale-faced young man made Luo Yin feel uncomfortable. It was as if all his secrets had been seen by Luo Yin. He was just about to have a fit. But I saw Luo Beichin had already gone far away. He hurried to catch up. When passing by Luo Yin, he bumped into him with his shoulder. Wanted to push Luo Yin away. Luo Yin stood still. Bang! After the collision, it was the pale-faced young man who bounced away. He sat down on the ground. Luo Yin walked away without even looking around. The next day was Friday. It was supposed to be Xiao Shi's general knowledge class in the morning, but it was Wei Fenghua who walked into the classroom. Wei Fenghua coughed twice and said, "Next on Monday, the Surface Exploration Corps will go to the No. 3 Forbidden Area, the Misty Canyon, to carry out a mission. This is a rare opportunity, and the Academy will help you apply for the opportunity to go with them. This is your chance to visit the Forbidden Area and get a first-hand understanding of the daily work of a mecha pilot. So today, we won't have a general knowledge class. I will be the one to tell you about the Forbidden Area." Luo Yin immediately perked up. Don't want to miss a word. Wei Fenghua wrote the word Forbidden Area on the blackboard. Said, "The Forbidden Area is a special area formed after the giant beast disaster. The scope of the Forbidden Areas is not the same, and the types of giant beasts and parasites in the Forbidden Areas are also varied. But the Forbidden Places have one thing in common. That is, in every Forbidden Area, there exists a giant beast ecosystem that is very different from the outside environment." Li Bohong raised his hand and asked, "Teacher, what is giant beast ecology?" Wei Fenghua pressed his palm down, asking Li Bohong to put down his hand, and continued. The so-called giant beast ecosystem is a special ecosystem derived from the giant beasts in the Forbidden Area. As for what kind of giant beast ecosystem will emerge, it is determined by the dominant behemoths in the Forbidden Area. This is just a reference, not an absolute. But in that area, there must be a dominant beast for the Forbidden Area to appear. Luo Yan's breathing became heavy. He already knew this in the previous behemoth common sense lesson. The humans in the dungeon divide the levels of the behemoths into low, middle, and high levels. The next level up is Overlord, and above Overlord is the Nightmare level. In addition, it is not difficult to see from the teacher's words. In addition to the Nightmare level, there seems to be a higher level. When coming to the dungeon, in the city where Luo Yin lived for 3 years, He had already seen the lower-level Li and the middle-level Taodai. It's okay if it's just raccoon power, but Taodai is already quite terrifying. This is just the intermediate level. Luo Yin couldn't imagine how terrifying those overlord-level and even nightmare-level beasts were. Although other people do not have as rich experience as Luo Yin, they are exposed to a lot of information in their daily lives. Naturally, I know how terrifying the overlord-level beast is. Hearing that there would be a dominant beast in the forbidden area, many students have begun to back off. Wei Fenghua glanced at the students and said, "Don't worry. Overlord-class beasts are usually found in the deepest part of the forbidden area. However, this time, the Exploration Corps is only active in a few relatively safe areas of the forbidden area. You won't have the chance to encounter a Overlord-class monster. However, you still need to know some information about the Misty Valley. Among them, the most important. Of course it's the information about that Overlord-class beast." Wei Fenghua turned around and quickly wrote some information on the blackboard. Codename, Level Overlord 3. Type Caterpillar. Features, Fog, Wind, Hallucination, Sonic Boom, Beast Taming. Weakness unknown. Wei Fenghua coughed a few times and said, "This overlord looks like a cat, with one eye and 3 tails. It has the ability to raise wind and raise fog. So the number 3 forbidden area is shrouded in fog all year round, thus forming a unique ecosystem." Next, Wei Fenghua also explained the giant beasts and parasite swarms that have been discovered in the Misty Canyon so far. What kind of animals and plants are there in the forbidden area, and what are the areas that require caution? And just like that, a morning passed. Afternoon. Training hall. "Teacher Wei, I have made a breakthrough and am now at the 2nd level of the beginner level." Luo Yin reported his progress truthfully. Wei Fenghua nodded. "Half Moon level 2, and it's viewing mountains and seas. The progress is pretty fast. You used a lot of tranquility potions, didn't you?" Luo Yin nodded. "It's amazing that you are willing to spend so much money. Now, you can practice the 2nd level. The 2nd level of the primary level is mainly to allow the energy to penetrate every inch of your body and every muscle. Make them as tough as the mountains. The key point of cultivation is same as last time." Wei Fenghua explained in detail. Luo Yin listened quietly. Then he practiced on his own, with Wei Fenghua giving him guidance. After the training, Wei Fenghua said, "Don't practice too fast in the next 2 days. Get enough rest. After entering the forbidden area, there are many places where you will need to use God. And when it comes to cultivation, you need to be diligent but also take adequate rest. More haste, less speed." Luo Yin took note of it. There are no classes at the college on Saturdays and Sundays. Luo Yin didn't want to waste time. But he also remembered Wei Fenghua's instructions and did not train too hard. 2 full days passed like this. Welcome Monday. Early this morning, the freshmen gathered on the playground, waiting for the instructor to arrive. Suddenly, everyone felt the ground shaking. Then several mechas came onto the playground. 3 of them are humanoid mechas, but one looks like a giant wolf. The wolf-shaped mecha was mainly dark black in color, decorated with bright red patterns. Like flame. Many students exclaimed softly, "It's the magic machine." Luo Yin recalled the content of teacher Zhao Yidan's mecha class. The teacher said that there are 3 types of mechas. The most common one is the humanoid mecha, which is called Xianji. There are also alien mechas, called magic machines. The control of the magic machine is relatively difficult because it is not in human form. Even with the empathy system, it is very difficult to control. In addition to these 2 types of mecha, there is a 3rd type. However, Teacher Zhao did not explain in depth. It was simply described as confidential. At this time, an iron-black humanoid mecha decorated with bright yellow patterns and components took 2 steps forward. This mecha has a very heavy body, especially its 2 arms. Extra thick, with arms longer than the knees. It is obvious that the outer armor exceeds the normal standards and has a special weapon system built in. After it stopped, the door of the cab behind the head opened and a driver came out. A mecha master. The man looked down from above and looked around. Stay on Luo Yan's face 2 seconds. Then Wei Fenghua's voice came. These are the mechas of our academy, and the ones driving them are the 3rd-year students of our academy. They are responsible for protecting the Academy personnel, and this is also an important test for them. Wei Fenghua pointed at the driver of the black heavy armor and said, He Hao, a third-year student, with a level 3 intermediate visualization skill. He is the captain of this team. The machine he's piloting is the Mystic Black Thunder. Black Thunder, height 8,547 meters, weight 1987 tons, operating system is Horizon 3 generation, main engine, Thunderlight, 4 auxiliary engines. Then move your finger. The pilot who came out of the wolf-shaped mecha fell into the water. It's a girl. She sat on the mecha with her legs together and boldly blew a kiss to the freshman. Sujio, a third-year student, intermediate second-level visualization level. Vice Captain. The machine is a demon machine, Tanlang. Tanlang, weight 1685 tons, operating system as above, main engine, Wolfpack, 9 auxiliary engines. Wei Fenghua introduced the remaining 2 mecha masters to everyone one by one. At the command, set off. A moment later, a convoy drove out of the 100 Battles Academy. In the car, most of the freshmen were very excited. This made Luo Yin feel like he was on a school outing. After getting on the bus, each person was given a suitcase. Wei Fenghua said, What you have now is the equipment distributed to you by the Academy. It includes a set of field combat uniforms, a set of light armor, a gun, ammunition, a saber, and first aid medicine. These things can't deal with giant beasts, and they're not even very effective against a swarm of parasites. But if you accidentally run into 1 or 2 giant parasites, it can still be of some use. So, equip it now. The girls in the car couldn't help but exclaimed here, Wouldn't that be a bargain for those boys? Wei Fenghua said expressionlessly, We entered the forbidden area and went to the battlefield. There are many more cruel things than this. If you don't want to die, stop talking nonsense. Sit in the back row. A girl opened her suitcase and took off her coat without saying a word. Then, with an indifferent expression, he changed into camouflage combat uniform. Lin Wei is so amazing. She's not afraid of being at a disadvantage at all. Of course, he ranked second in the college entrance examination, so he must be very capable. Several girls started discussing in low voices. Luo Yin looked at the girl whose score in the college entrance examination was second only to his. Lin Wei is tall. Her black hair was tied into a high ponytail. On the left earlobe, she wears a ruby earring. His eyes were indifferent, as if he had no interest in anything. Maybe he could feel Luo Yan's gaze. Lin Wei looked back. His eyes are like stars and his gaze is deep. Luo Yin couldn't read any meaning from her eyes. So he turned around and opened his suitcase. Take off your coat. When Luo Yin took off his outer clothes, a light cry was heard in the carriage. Luo Yin has many scars on his body. 1 piece in the east, 1 strip in the west. There are also dark red spots caused by infection with red poison. Make his body look ugly. Luo Yin doesn't care about other people's eyes at all. He quickly put on his combat uniform, put on his armor, and checked his rifle. Wait until everyone else has changed their equipment. Wei Fenghua then said, after entering the Misty Canyon, you must pay special attention to a plant called Phoenix Palm. This is part of the giant beast ecosystem in Forbidden Area Number 3. Phoenix tail palm is an evergreen shrub and is named after its phoenix tail-like appearance. At the same time, it is the favorite food of the Overlord-level behemoth Huan. Its smell will attract the arrival of Huan. When you see it, stay away from it and don't pick it. Do you understand? The students responded one after another. At this time, Li Bohong raised his hand and asked, Teacher, what is the mission of the Surface Army to go to the Forbidden Area this time? Wei Fenghua said, a regular mission, to search for Yuan, and collect the exotic flowers and herbs in the Forbidden Area to use as materials for various medicines. If allowed, destroy some of the surrounding giant beasts to prevent the Forbidden Area from expanding. The deep and dark crystal flashed through Luo Yan's mind. At that time, Dizhang brought back a piece of Yuan from the Galaxy Stadium and attracted the giant beast Churu on the way. This was mentioned before in Xiao Shi's general knowledge class. Yuan is a product of the Yinfu space. In the giant beast calamity, it descends from the sky, along with the giant beasts that were thrown onto the earth. The end will have an impact on the ground ecology and cause common plants and animals to mutate. In addition, The behemoth can evolve by absorbing the energy in the Yun. Improve your rank. This was also the reason why the Tao Dai in the Galaxy Stadium at that time stayed guarding Yun and refused to leave. Now, every time the Yambu space is opened, Yun will occasionally drop. But according to statistics, the number is not as high as it was during the giant beast scourge. Another boy frowned and said, "Teacher, I don't understand. You said that behemoths can evolve through the Yin, so there is a need for the Yin. But why do we humans recycle them? Wouldn't it be better to just destroy them?" Wei Fenghua coughed twice and smiled. "It seems that Xiaoshi didn't mention it to you. Well, let me tell you. We retrieved the earth for the primordial stone fragments that might be inside it." A fragment of the primordial stone? A puzzled voice was heard in the carriage. Wei Fenghua nodded slightly. "That's right. Although Yun is a favorite of the giant beast, it is occasionally accompanied by a strange stone that looks like white jade. This strange stone can cause the divine treasure to mutate. Even a divine treasure that has little effect can become extremely powerful under the induction of this strange stone. Some inscriptions found in that world recorded this strange stone. It was called the primordial stone fragment. Luo Yin was shocked when he heard this. He quickly lowered his head. He finally knew the reason for the abnormal change of his qi-seeing pupil. "I also know the origin of the diamond-shaped white jade. It turns out that what he got that day was the primordial stone fragment." At this time, the convoy had already left the dungeon. Come to the surface. Strong sunlight shines in through the car window. The students were temporarily attracted by the sunlight outside the window. They all leaned against the window. Even the cold-tempered Lin Wei turned her head slightly to look out the window. These students are different from Luo Yin. They have been out of sight for many years. Now that I finally have the opportunity to come to the surface, I am naturally excited. On the shore of the Great Lake, the Academy Convoy and the Surface Exploration Corps joined together and headed northwest in a mighty procession. 3 days later, the convoy arrived at the Forbidden Area Number 3, Misty Canyon. It was noon when we entered the canyon. It was sunny outside the car just a second ago. The next second, the lights suddenly dimmed, as if I had come to another world. Luo Yin saw it from the car window. Although there is almost no fog at the edge of the forbidden area, looking into the distance, the entire field of vision is filled with gray fog. From time to time, flashes of lightning appeared in the thick fog. Whenever lightning appears, it reveals some strange outlines in the thick fog. It gives people a sense of mystery and danger for no reason. After entering the canyon, whether it is the surface army or the academy team, the escort mechas came out of the carrier bay and walked on both sides of the convoy. Seeing these giant mechas following around should make people feel safe. But after entering the canyon, even the most cautious students became nervous and didn't speak. Just when Luo Yin thought that this silence would continue until they set up camp. Suddenly, a broadcast sounded in the carriage. "Attention! A giant beast has been spotted ahead. Current match archive, matching completed. The beast ahead has been confirmed to be C. Level 3 lower. Type Caterpillar. Suck note. C. Pinyin SI, 4th tone. Pronounced the same as the character 4. The Haiyan Ei Nanjing says that the sea is located to the east of Shun's burial place and to the south of the Xiang River. It looks like an ox, dark gray, and has one horn. In the classic of mountains and seas, C is an auspicious beast that looks like a buffalo, with a pitch-black body and one horn. But in reality, C is a giant and ferocious beast. Currently, the names of the known giant beasts are basically based on the ancient book Shan Haijing. The name was given according to the similar description of the behemoth and ancient books. Luo Yin had read about the sea in the giant beast common sense class. This bull-like beast could easily smash a building. They are usually covered with a layer of blue-black fur. The fur of the SI is long and thick. When it runs at full speed, it looks like a moving black cloud. After the exploration corps discovered the presence of the giant beast, the sound of gunfire began to be heard in front of the convoy. Not long after, the radio in the car sounded again. To the northwest, at 10 o'clock, a second giant beast appeared. It's the same sea. Based on its trajectory, it will collide with the academy convoy. After hearing the broadcast, the students' faces turned pale. Luo Yin gripped his rifle tightly. Calm. Wei Fenghua said calmly, He Hao and his team will protect us. Luo Yin looked out the window. The heavy mecha named Black Thunder has already strode forward. In the cockpit of the mecha, He Hao, who looked like a tough guy, said in the team channel, Old rules, use the standard 211 formation. Receive. Clear. While the team members were responding, two Xuanjis stood in the middle of the giant beast's moving path. They all raised two black rifles with thick barrels. The corresponding information immediately flashed in Luo Yan's mind about the special rifle for behemoths, the Shinwei Type 3. The gun is 4,821 meters long, the barrel length is 2,235 meters, and the caliber is 37 centimeters. The capacity is 30 rounds, the effective range is 15,000 meters, and the initial velocity of the bullet is 950 meters per second. At this time, He Hao was driving the Black Thunder and Su Jiu was controlling the Greedy Wolf. Spread out to the left and right. It is in a slight crescent shape. Both arms of Black Thunder and all weapon systems on the chest are activated. The armor on the back of Greedy Wolf also unfolded, and a cannon with an ever-extending barrel rose from inside. It's the 211 formation. Wei Fenghua casually said, Who knows what the 211 formation is? Li Bohong pushed his glasses with his hand and said, 211 formation, two mechas are responsible for the main firepower output, and the other two mechas are for assistance. During the fire output period, the two auxiliary mechas can move freely according to the situation. This is the 211 formation. Very good, 10 credits as a reward. Wei Fenghua nodded. There was a light cry in the carriage. Can I get 10 credits just by answering this question? Please tell me earlier, Teacher Wei. At this time, the students could already feel the ground shaking. Then, a black cloud emerged from a dense forest in the distance. It was a giant beast that looked like a buffalo, with its thick, long fur dancing up and down as it ran. See, it has a hair in the middle of its forehead. It has long, thick, and pointed horns with spiral patterns on them. Those lines were emitting a blue-black light, as if a ball of devilish flame was burning. Fire. In the cockpit, Captain He Hao gave the order. Next second, four mechas opened fire at the same time. The two machines in the middle that were responsible for the main firepower output kept firing bang 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 from the Shinwei Type 3 rifles in their hands. A long, bright flame spurted out from the muzzle, and the bullet dragged a line of fire straight towards the target. Huge shell casings kept falling at the feet of the mecha, splashing mud and rocks on the ground. Looking at the bullet shells with patterns engraved on their surfaces, Luo Yin knew that they were armor-piercing bullets specially designed for use against giant beasts. It is very useful for giant beasts with thick skin and flesh. Under the dense barrage of bullets, the black cloud in the distance kept jumping with blood flowers. As Black Thunder and Greedy Wolf joined the attack, people are in the carriage. Luo Yin only felt as if an earthquake was happening in the canyon. Under the fierce artillery attack, trees in the forest were knocked down in large numbers. The giant beast sea was beaten all over the place. At this time, the armor on both sides of the abdomen of the demon machine Ganlang unfolded. A guided missile was launched on each side with the assistance of a robotic arm. As flames spurted out from the tail, the two missiles dragged flames. With a sharp roar, the two front limbs of the giant beast were hit. The explosion shattered the giant beast's front limbs, and under the influence of inertia, the beast fell to the ground with a wail and slid forward. Seeing this, He Hao roared, "Control the heavy mecha and rush towards the giant beast." At the moment of approach, Black Thunder raised his arm and clenched his fist. Attack brazenly. Steel fists cut through the air. Let out a melancholy howl. The tip of the fist was flashing with a black light. The blow hit C right in the middle of the head. Suddenly, a solemn sound like the sound of a Huangzhong Dalu was heard in the canyon. The impact of the airflow spread with a roar. All the nearby trees bent down. The windows of the vehicle Luo Yin was in were buzzing from the shaking. A wave of peace. Another wave comes. The fist of the mecha Black Thunder is still imprinted on C's head. The black light on the fist tip had originally dimmed, but in an instant it became bright again. And explode. Bang. C's whole body shook, and he suddenly jumped up and somersaulted over Black Thunder's head. It fell heavily to the ground. The ground immediately stirred up a circle of earth waves, spreading wildly. In the carriage, all the students were knocked to the ground by the shock. There was a burst of exclamations. There were bright silver lights around Luo Yan's red eyes when he climbed up. He used the Qi-seeing eye. Look out. In the grayish-white light of Qi, the circle of fiery red light was rapidly dimming. The Qi and blood values that were as high as 4 digits were changing rapidly and returned to 0 in the blink of an eye. In fact, you can see it without the Qi-seeing pupil. The beast's head exploded, and its horn stuck into the ground. It was dead beyond deadness. At this time, Black Thunder turned around and walked to the unicorn horn. Pull it out, then raise it above your head. There was a burst of cheers in the carriage. In the eyes of freshmen, Black Thunder is like a god of war, tall and invincible. The Exploration Corps also destroyed the military beasts, so the convoy stopped temporarily. Collectors were busy recovering organs, horns, claws, and other items from the giant beast. The most important thing here is the core of the behemoth. That is the essence of the giant beast. You just saw it. During the break, Wei Fenghua did not forget to give advice to his students. During combat, it is standard combat procedure to prioritize long-range attacks. If the ammunition is gone, we can produce more, but the mecha still has the pilot. If there is any damage, it will be a huge loss. A student raised his hand and asked, "Teacher, was the last combat skill used by Black Thunder?" Wei Fenghua nodded. That's right. That's He Hao's fighting skill, Jiao Lei Er Lian. That kind of boxing technique can deliver 2 impacts, and the second impact is more powerful and stronger. Through the empathy system, with the mecha's amplification, we can kill the giant beast with 1 punch. You should do the same when you go to the battlefield in the future. First, use guns and cannons to deplete the beast's stamina. When there is a chance of victory, use combat skills or mystical arts as the deciding factor. The students nodded. Wei Fenghua suddenly asked, "What is the basis for the classification of the behemoth's rank?" Luo Yin immediately answered, "They are divided according to their abilities and threats." Wei Fenghua nodded and asked, "What is the basis for the classification of the giant beasts?" This time, it was Lin Wei who got the chance. Based on their size and weight, therefore, for behemoths of the same level, we cannot blindly judge their strength by level. Wei Fenghua said with satisfaction, "Yes, you two performed well. Reward 10 points." Suddenly, there was a cry of annoyance. The recovery work continued until the evening. The convoy simply stopped moving forward. Students and soldiers camped nearby. After a simple dinner, Wei Fenghua called the students over. "We will now draw lots to determine the groups. Tomorrow you will form groups and help the Exploration Corps collect herbs. Complete the mission and you will get credits as reward." I heard there are academic credits awarded. Luo Yin was very happy. But when I heard the group scores, I felt a little unhappy. He is used to being alone. At this moment, he remembered what Li Bohong had said. "Want to be a mecha division? If we continue on this path, we will have to adapt to the collective." Luo Yin thought, "Let's start adapting from this gathering mission." After a moment, the grouping results are out. Luo Yan's teammates are Wu Renfan and Zheng Shan. Wu Renfan is thin and weak, and wears glasses with very thick lenses. This person usually has no presence. Luo Yin had no impression of him. Zheng Shan is tall, with thick eyebrows and big eyes. When I learned that I had passed the college entrance examination, I was so happy that my eyes turned red and I raised my arms and cheered. Luo Yin had some impression of him, but we don't usually interact with each other. Look at these 2 people. Luo Yin said simply, "I will be the captain for tomorrow's mission." He doesn't like being bossed around, so take the initiative to ask. If the 2 do not agree, then they will break up. "Okay, I have no objection," Wu Renfan said with a smile. Zheng Shan also nodded. "You got the highest score in the college entrance examination. I admire you very much. I have no objection to you being the captain." The matter was settled. Luo Yin turned around and went to find Wei Fenghua. When the teacher saw Wei Fenghua, he was putting a capsule into his mouth. After taking with water, Wei Fenghua smiled and said, "Is there anything you need from me regarding your old injury?" Luo Yin sat down next to him. "Teacher, if I obtain the primordial stone fragment, will my air-seeing eyes change?" Wei Fenghua glanced at him and said, I definitely will. However, not everyone can obtain the fragments of the primordial stone. This is the highest grade material, and it is only awarded to meritorious people. Of course, you may have a chance in the future. Seeing that the groundwork was almost done, Luo Yin asked, if there is a chance to obtain it, what kind of divine treasure can the Qi-seeing pupil transform into? Wei Fenghua casually said, the eye of the Dharma that breaks through barriers. My abilities are breaking through obstacles, recognizing illusions, far-sightedness, strong memory, and observing Qi. After the breakthrough, it will be the eye of truth. The eye of Dharma that breaks through obstacles. The eye of truth? Luo Yin was surprised. Can the divine treasure be broken through? Wei Fenghua smiled and said, why not? You can break through all levels of visualization techniques. Shinzo is no exception. It's just that the course hasn't reached that point yet, so you don't know it yet. If you are interested in the divine treasure, I will give you a book when you return. You can read it yourself. Luo Yin readily agreed. I won't dare to disturb you again. Return to your tent. On the way, Luo Yin was filled with joy. He finally knew his name after the mutation of Shenzong. I also know that Shenzong can be broken through. I suddenly felt that the future was bright. At this time, he saw Wu Rinfan coming out of his tent. Luo Yin couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Are you looking for me? Luo Yin stopped Wu Rinfan. Wu Rinfan was frightened, but he quickly calmed down. Yes, Captain. I just want to ask, do we have any specific plans for tomorrow? I personally feel that tomorrow's collection mission may be another kind of assessment of us by the Academy. So I wanted to discuss this with you. Unexpectedly, you were not there. I waited for you for a while, and when you didn't come back, I wanted to leave. What a coincidence. Just when I was about to leave, you came back. Captain, let's discuss this? Seeing him talking so much, Luo Yin became a little impatient. He shook his head and said, no need to discuss. Just listen to me tomorrow. Wu Rinfan wanted to say something else, but he glared back at Luo Yin. In the end, I could only laugh dryly and said, okay, I'll listen to you tomorrow, Captain. After he left, Luo Yin walked into the tent. After checking, nothing abnormal was found. Then he crawled into the sleeping bag. The next day, these are the herbs you are going to collect. Cloudgrass, moonlight flower, and water lily leaf. They are the raw materials for the tranquilizing potion and the cloud water potion. The main distribution areas have been marked on your team's computer. Now, the gathering mission begins. In the camp, Wei Fenghua gave an order. The freshmen, including Luo Yin, rushed to their respective mission locations. Luo Yin turned on the team computer and went deep into the jungle according to the instructions on it. Wu Rinfan and Zhang Shan followed closely behind. At the beginning, I could hear voices from time to time around me. But as time went by, all I saw around me were the swaying shadows of the trees and small animals that occasionally appeared in the bushes or trees. Occasionally, the roars of some giant beasts will be heard from afar. Fortunately, they were located on the edge of the forbidden area. There are surface troops active around. Basically, there won't be much danger. Walking room. Luo Yin would stop from time to time. He looked carefully at the ground nearby. Watch out for leaves on the ground. Are there any signs of being trampled? Occasionally, when you dig up some suspicious mud piles, you can often find the feces of some creatures. When Wu Rinfan saw Luo Yin seem to be distinguishing the smell of the feces, he showed a look of disgust. Xing Shan is fine. In the Giant Beast Common Sense class, the teacher has taught us how to simply distinguish the feces of giant beasts from those of other animals. The blood of the behemoth carries red poison, so its feces have a pungent smell like sulfur. It's very easy to tell the difference. By identifying giant beast feces, it is possible to determine whether the area nearby is the habitat of the giant beast, thereby avoiding risks. Luo Yin is doing this now. He's really superfluous. Wu Rinfan whispered to Zhang Shan, this is a relatively safe area. We killed 2 giant beasts yesterday. Where's the danger? Xing Shan held the rifle assigned by the academy, looked around, and said in a low voice, I think it's better not to be careless. Ahead, Luo Yin stopped. He looked back at them. Wu Rinfan quickly shut his mouth. A day passed. It was evening. Luo Yin and the other 2 have collected enough herbs. Prepare to go back and report. walking and walking. Luo Yin made a stop gesture. Wu Renfan complained, Captain. We've been out for a whole day. I think the other teams have already returned to camp. We are the last one. Let us go back quickly. My feet are sore. Luo Yin turned around, pointed the gun at him, and uttered the words, shut up. Then he looked around and said, look, it's foggy. After being reminded by Luo Yin, Wu Renfan and Zhang Shan realized it. Sure enough, there was a thin mist that spread silently. The nearby flowers, plants, and trees all appear hazy. Even the scenery in the distance became vague. Wu Renfan whispered, this it's called Misty Canyon. If it's foggy, it's foggy. There's nothing to worry about. Zhang Shan shook his head and said, no, we're in the fringe area. There shouldn't be fog here. Quiet. Let's go. Luo Yin had a bad feeling. He lived on the surface for 3 years. The instincts of a wild animal have long been honed. Thick fog suddenly rose in the edge area. This is so abnormal. When something is abnormal, there must be something wrong. Luo Yin just hopes that he won't draw the worst lot. Which one? It was naturally Huan, the Overlord-class behemoth, whose characteristics included descriptions such as raising wind and raising fog. The fog gradually thickened. Now even Wu Renfan, who didn't take it seriously, became extremely nervous. Nowadays, the field of vision has been compressed to about meters. No farther. It's all blurry. And Luo Yin began to have an uneasy feeling as if he was wandering in circles in the woods. So he marked the tree. A few minutes later, it came true. Oh no, we re-trapped in the fog. Wu Renfan was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. Luo Yin said calmly, contact the camp, rest here, and wait for rescue. Zhang Shan immediately took out the walkie-talkie and called the camp. Camp. If you hear me, please answer. 3 times in a row, no one answered. Luo Yan's heart sank. But at this moment, they heard someone in front of them shouting, classmates, which group are you in? We are here to rescue you. Only after hearing this voice did Luo Yin heave a sigh of relief. Li and Xiao were even more overjoyed. After a moment, sure enough, I saw lights and several blurry shadows appearing in the thick fog ahead. Where are you guys? When you hear the voice, answer it. Wu Renfan was about to respond. Luo Yin suddenly thought, if it was a search and rescue team, why didn't he know their identities? Don't know which group they are from? So, he covered Wu Renfan's mouth like lightning. Bar. Then he shook his head. His red eyes were surrounded by a little silver light. Luo Yin activated the eye of breaking barriers. The fog suddenly disappeared from his eyes. Trees, flowers, and plants lose their texture. Everything is represented only by lines, and groups of numbers appear one after another. Luo Yin ignored the numbers. Look in the direction where the light just came on. Far away, there was indeed a group of biological gray light, but the light was huge. From the outline, it looks like a cat squatting on the ground. But behind this cat, there were 3 tails that were constantly waving. Ho! Without a doubt, they drew the worst lot. The gray light in front is the dominant behemoth in this canyon. It is the source of the giant beast ecology in the forbidden area. Luo Yin quickly recalled the characteristics of this giant beast. Except for raising wind and raising fog, it also has a description of hallucination. In other words, the lights and figures that the 3 people saw just now, it's just an illusion. It was a deceptive trick used by that giant beast. Luo Yin looked around. It was discovered that a huge tree had died and its trunk was hollow. Luo grabbed Zhang Shan and Wu Renfan by the shoulders. Quiet. Come with me. A moment later, they squeezed into the tree hole. Wu Renfan then asked, what are we doing? Huan, here I come. Luo Yin said simply, the light and sound just now were illusions. We are too small to face the giant beast. It's just like when you're in a bush. It's hard to find a few ants. It didn't notice us, so it used illusion to lure us into taking the bait. But there must be something about us that attracts it. Otherwise, this thing wouldn't come out from the depths of the forbidden area. After saying that, Luo Yin looked at Zhang Shan and Wu Renfan. Open your backpacks. Wu Renfan frowned and asked, why are you opening your backpack? He just finished speaking. There was a rustling sound outside. There was light shining through the thick fog, and someone could be vaguely heard shouting, "Classmates, classmates, where are you?" Wu Renfan just opened his mouth. Luo Yin had already put the muzzle of the gun against his temple. Then he slowly shook his head. Next, the three of them didn't dare to breathe. All you could hear was a rustling sound around the tree hole from time to time. It was like a real search and rescue team, circling around them several times. After a while, the lights and sounds disappeared in the thick fog. Wu Renfan then asked, "What if there really is a search and rescue team outside?" Luo Yin said expressionlessly, "The fog has cleared. We can go back and be saved." The subtext is, he doesn't want to take any risks. Luo Yin pointed the gun at Wu Renfan and said, "Open your backpack." He no longer wanted to talk nonsense. Wu Renfan shrugged. "Take off the backpack and open it." Luo Yin then said to Zheng Shan, "Pour out everything inside." Zheng Shan did not dare to disobey. Crash. Everything in the backpack fell out. There are magazines, potions, and freshly collected herbs inside. There's nothing suspicious about it. Luo Yin looked at Zheng Shan. The latter understood and emptied his backpack as well. The item is similar to Wu Renfan's. "Look, Captain, you're too nervous," Wu Renfan said. "You don't doubt that we attracted the beast, do you? How could we be so hard on ourselves?" Luo Yin glanced at him. Suddenly I remembered that Wu Renfan had entered my tent last night. But then, he checked the tent. "Includes rucksack. Nothing unusual," etc. Luo Yin suddenly thought of it. "I missed some places." He immediately threw his backpack to the ground. "Squat down." Without further ado, he drew out his saber and tore open the backpack. Wu Renfan was startled. "I roll. Move quietly towards the exit." At this time, Luo Yin saw it. When the saber cut open the backpack, a layer of material appeared. Something fell out of it. It is a plant. A green shrub that looks like a phoenix tail. Wu Renfan and Zheng Shan both exclaimed at the same time, "Phoenix tail sunflower?" Luo Yin looked at Wu Renfan. Mr. Wu's expression changed. About to rush out of the tree hole. Whoosh! There was a flash of knife. Luo Yan's saber stabbed into his thigh. Wu Renfan fell down suddenly and was about to scream. But Luo Yin covered his mouth. Zheng Shan looked confused. "I don't know what happened to the two." Then Luo Yin said coldly, "You entered my tent last night just to put the wind-tail sunflower into my backpack?" "No, no, no." Wu Renfan quickly said, "Captain, listen to me. I didn't know there were phoenix palms in there. It was Ranzhong. He gave me this backpack to replace yours. But I really didn't know he put phoenix palm in it. He did give me some benefits, but I don't need to sacrifice my life for a little benefit. If I knew there were phoenix palm in the backpack, I would never agree to his request even if I was beaten to death." Ranzhong is the fair-faced young man next to Luo Beichen. Needless to say, this matter must have been instigated by Luo Beichen. This guy is really insidious. He actually planned to set up a trap to kill himself before fighting the death match. After hearing this, Luo Yin did not comment. Zheng Shan rushed over angrily. "Wu Renfan, you are so stupid and evil." Luo Yin didn't waste any words and said to Zheng Shan, "Come with me." He drew out his saber, and a stream of blood immediately spurted out from Wu Renfan's thigh. The man surnamed Wu rolled on the ground in pain. Luo Yin crawled out of the tree hole holding a saber. Zheng Shan glanced at Wu Renfan and left as well. Fog and illusions have no effect on Luo Yan's eye of breaking barriers. He could definitely bring Zheng Shan back to the camp safely. But Wu Renfan can't do that. He was as blind as a man in the fog. What's more, his leg is injured now. Now seeing Luo Yin and the other two leaving, he was suddenly shocked. Afraid that the big cat-like beast would come looking for him, Wu Renfan quickly whispered to the outside of the tree hole, "Captain, this is really none of my business. I am also a victim. Captain, as long as you don't abandon me, from now on, I will follow your lead. Luo Beichen obviously wants to kill me too. He is unkind, and I am unjust. There's nothing much to say. If you want to deal with Luo Beichen, I will help you." However, the footsteps of Luo Yin and the other man not only continued, but also quickly faded away. "Don't leave me behind. Don't leave me behind." Wu Renfan was so anxious that he covered his thigh with one hand. He stumbled out of the tree hole, came into the thick fog. In the fog, Xing Shan could hardly see Luo Yan's figure. I can only follow his footsteps. But suddenly, Luo Yan's footsteps disappeared. Xing Shan was about to ask. Then I heard Luo Yan's voice coming from the front. We are in trouble. The words fell. In the quiet woods, in the thick fog, a strange sound was heard. Ding-ding pi similar sounds came one after another. It kept ringing all around. Xing Shan asked quietly, what is that? Golden-winged lice, the parasite on Huan's body. It was active nearby just now. Although it left, it dropped a lot of parasites. Luo Yan described calmly. At this moment, in his field of vision, gray lights in the shape of insects were scattered around the woods in groups of 3 or 2. Luo Yan recalled the description of the golden-winged louse. The golden-winged louse is a member of the order Pterygoda, a parasite unique to the body of insects. Its wings are as hard as gold and iron and very sharp. It is good at using the segments of its hind legs to rub rhythmically against golden wings to convey information. Although it has wings, it can only fly at low altitude. The speed is medium. In addition to sucking blood, it also spreads a variety of diseases including red poison. Luo Yan reviewed what he had learned. While looking for a breakthrough, it's a pity, looking around, the golden-winged lice were everywhere, leaving no gaps for them to exploit. Just at this moment, a ball of gray light suddenly flew out from the bushes to the left of Luo Yan. Golden-winged louse. Luo Yan immediately rolled over, raised his rifle, locked, and fired. Tick, tick, tick. The rifle spurted out flames, and a volley of bullets shattered the puppy-sized parasite into pieces. However, the gunshots also attracted the attention of other golden-winged lice. Ding, 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 they convey information through sound. Then they all came towards Luo Yan and the other 2. Luo Yan looked around, suddenly found a place. It was a pile of rocks. The largest one is 7 or 8 meters high. There is a crack in the middle. The height is 214 centimeters, the width is 107 centimeters, and the depth is more than 5 meters. It looks like it can accommodate one person walking. Come with me. Luo Yan immediately moved in that direction. He wanted to use the limited space on the high rock to limit the number of golden-winged lice. Xing Shan followed immediately. Far away, Wu Renfan is still groping in the fog. The fog was so thick that he couldn't see anyone. He could not help but shout anxiously, Luo Yan, Xing Shan, where are you? At this time, he heard a buzzing sound above his head. Then something fell on his head, and Wu Renfan felt a pain on the top of his head and heard a loud gurgling sound. It sounded exactly like the sound of him drinking from a straw, but at this time, it was the golden-winged lice that were sucking his blood and his brains. So, in the fog, Xing Shan heard Wu Renfan's screams of pain and despair from behind. In a blink of an eye, Luo Yan rushed into the crevice of the tall rock, rushed in 2 or 3 meters in one breath. Luo Yan stopped and swiftly took out a magazine and placed it aside. Xing Shan also followed in. Get down and prepare to fight. Luo Yan quickly checked the gun, then lifted up and pointed toward the entrance of the gap. There is limited space here. It is difficult for the golden-winged lice to swarm in. And now, they were slow to return to camp. Wei Fenghua should have noticed it. Maybe just hold on. We will be able to welcome reinforcements. At this time, outside the crevice in the rock, there was a loud sound of flapping wings. The golden-winged louse followed. But because of the fog, many of them flew over the pile of rocks, searching for Luo Yan and the other person like headless flies. With the help of the eye of breaking barriers, Luo Yan saw this scene. I breathed a sigh of relief. But there are still quite a few golden-winged lice wandering outside the rocks. There are at least hundreds of them. If you are in a spacious place, hundreds of golden-winged lice will swarm over you. He was able to eat Luo Yan and the other man until not even a bone was left. It's okay now. Many of them were crawling on the rocks. Only 1 or 2 of them crawled into the cracks of the high rocks. Luo Yan thought about it. Put down the rifle. Draw your saber. He put his hand on Xing Shan's shoulder. He rolled over and landed in front of Xing Shan. Ambush at the entrance. When a ball of biological gray light crawled in, the golden-winged louse was not able to see clearly what was going on inside. Luo Yan cut his brain with one knife. Pull it horizontally again. The golden-winged louse's head fell off. See this scene. Xing Shan's breathing was rapid. I felt a little more in awe of Luo Yin. Luo Yin used the ability of the Eye of Breaking Barriers to discover the whereabouts of the golden-winged louse one step ahead. Killed several of them silently. Unfortunately, the good times didn't last long. I don't know if it was the blood of their own kind that attracted their attention. The 100 or so golden-winged lice wandering on the rubble began to gather towards the cracks in the high rocks. Luo Yin knew there was no hope. Return to the original place. He whispered to Xing Shan, "They are coming." Xing Shan did not have any eye skills, and night was falling. It is pitch dark in this crack. The sound is audible. Ding ding pyridine. The sound of the golden-winged louse, transmitting information, gradually became denser at the entrance. He couldn't help but tighten his grip on the rifle nervously. The rifles issued by the Academy are light machine guns, which are easy to carry and suitable for use in small spaces. The small grip is integrated with the trigger guard and adopts a rotary locking method. The firing mode can be adjusted between single and continuous firing. The magazine capacity is the standard 30 rounds, and because it is a collection mission, each of Luo Yin and his men only had 2 magazines. If it is to save ammunition, Luo Yin should use single-shot mode, but now he uses burst fire. In the past 2 weeks, he has only conducted more systematic shooting training. My marksmanship has improved compared to when I was on the surface, but he is still far from being a sharpshooter. If you use the single-shot mode at this time, if you make a mistake, the consequences will be serious. Time passes by little. Finally, a golden-winged louse poked its head out from a crevice in the high rock, and around that gap, it was already crawling with golden-winged lice, densely packed together, and the sound of their wings was constant. Using the Eye of Breaking Obstacles to search for the enemy, Luo Yin adjusted the angle and lightly pressed the trigger. Xing Shan suddenly heard a bang sound above his head. There was a fire lit up above. At the same time, a bullet shell fell on his shoulder and bounced to the ground. With the help of the fire from the muzzle, Xing Shan saw the entrance to the gap in front. The head of a golden-winged louse exploded, but more golden-winged lice rushed in first. These creatures have black shells and golden patterns on their wings. Head like a locust, but it has 4 small green eyes. Bang, bang, bang. Gunshots rang out above Xing Shan's head. The parasites that had penetrated into the cracks continuously emitted blood mist. Then he heard Luo Yan's roar. "Fire! You are in charge of the lower part." Xing Shan woke up as if from a dream and shouted, "Fire!" He is still calm. Remembering Luo Yan's instructions, he lowered the gun. Shoot the gold-winged lice that crawl in from the ground. The bullets raked the parasites, knocking their wings off and ripping their limbs apart. Bang, 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 bang. There was continuous gunfire in the cracks of the high rocks. The fire flickered continuously. The golden-winged lice fell down one by one. Soon, a lot of insect corpses piled up at the entrance of the gap, even though many of their kind died. The other golden-winged lice were still burrowing and frantically. Fortunately, the gap is limited. The golden-winged louse is also quite large. Usually only 4 or 5 can get in at the same time. The others were squeezed outside. Soon, Luo Yin had already emptied a magazine. He quickly put on another one, also the last one, and at this moment, distance to war. Less than a minute had passed. In a blink of an eye, the second magazine was also empty. Luo Yin yelled, "I have no more bullets." Xing Shan's rifle also stopped roaring the next second. "Me too." Luo Yin drew out his saber decisively. Cross Xing Shan, rushing towards the golden-winged louse that was drilling in from the outside. Substitution in 1 minute. As he spoke, he raised his knife and swung it down. Cut off the head of a golden-winged louse. Look up. 2 more parasites came towards us. Luo Yin used the armor on his arm as a shield and pushed the one on the left away. He raised the saber in his right hand and stabbed it into the abdomen of another insect. A sharp snap of the wrist. Throw the bug away. A cut was made in the golden-winged louse's stomach, and all the intestines and organs inside slid out. Luo Yin kept moving. He turned around and slashed at the bug that he had pinned against the rock. Just take its head off. Kill 2 insects in an instant. Luo Yin looked up. Now he has closed the Eye of Breaking Barriers. When the rifle was fired just now, A few clumps of weeds on the ground were set on fire, providing light. By the light of the fire, he saw 3 golden-winged lice swooping down at the same time. Because of limited space, they are arranged in a line from top to bottom. A cold light flashed in Luo Yan's eyes. The saber in his hand flashed. A silver-white streak like lightning was left between the bodies of the 3 golden-winged lice. Sword skills thunder. This was the fighting skill that Dijong personally taught him at the academy after Luo Baichen issued a challenge. There are 2 types. They are the sword skill thunder and the boxing skill bonebreaker. Instantly, the bodies of the 3 golden-winged lice split apart at the same time. The blood of the insects poured down on his head. It poured on Luo Yan's head, shoulders, and body. Behind is Zhongshan, looking at Luo Yan covered in blood in the firelight. Like seeing Shura, dead insects, blood, and a fishy smell. Luo Yan seemed to have returned to the surface again. Back to those difficult years of survival. He had a blank expression on his face. His eyes were cold and his actions were decisive. Hold the line. He started getting hurt. Start bleeding. But not a single step back. Luo Yan would try his best to avoid attacks if possible. If you can't avoid it, use a less vital part to block it. Then exchange injury for life. Just 1 minute. Luo Yan has turned into a bloody man. Even the hair was sticky with blood. Gradually, his feet were surrounded by insect corpses. His saber had already chopped and turned into a curl. A gap appeared. After barely chopping off another insect's head, Luo Yan threw it out suddenly. Let it turn into a cold light. Nail a bug that just crawled into the crack. At this time, some sand and stones fell on Luo Yan. He looked up. It turned out that there was a rock swaying above the crack. There were bullet holes and blood nearby. It should be that the rock structure there was destroyed during a certain strafing. Buzz, buzz, buzz. A few more golden-winged lice flew in. Luo Yan quickly formed a seal and pointed towards the rock. The energy between the 2 fingers gushed out and turned into a black rope. Number 1 Mystic Black Rope. Just like combat skills and visualization techniques, mystic arts were also discovered, organized, and modified in that world, and eventually became techniques that could be used by humans. There are nearly 100 types of mysterious arts. Each mysterious technique has a number. Furthermore, each mysterious technique requires the use of corresponding hand seals, also known as seal. Luo Yan spent 2 full days just practicing the black rope seal. Now, it's time to show your results. The rope formed by the Yuanli suddenly wrapped around the rock above. Luo Yan pulled hard. The already shaking rocks immediately fell down. Smash those bugs. Smash them into a pulp. At this time, exactly 1 minute had passed. It's my turn now. You take a rest. Behind Luo Yan, Xing Shan's voice rang out. He held a saber in his hand and his legs were trembling slightly. You can see that he is scared. But I still gritted my teeth and persevered. Luo Yan nodded and retreated to the back. Xing Shan yelled. The saber made a whirring sound and chopped out in a very professional manner. Chop into the head of a gold-winged louse. But it wasn't strong enough. Couldn't cut it open with 1 knife. The insect squeaked loudly and paddled vigorously with its front paws. Sparks were scratched on Xing Shan's arm guard. Xing Shan yelled. Grabbing the saber, he dragged the insect onto the rock. Pushed the knife harder. Only then was one side of the head cut off. He was gasping for air. Just now I saw Luo Yan killing the insects very easily. But until he took the stage himself, only then did I realize that was not the case at all. The shells of these things are very hard. If you use too little force, there is no way to split their bodies. In the gap, Luo Yan took out the first aid kit. I took out an anti-poison needle from it. I gave myself an injection in the thigh. He was worried that being drenched in insect blood would increase the toxicity of the red poison. Let's look at Xing Shan again. Luo Yan's eyes were deep. If Xing Shan hadn't come up just now, he would use Xing Shan to feed these golden winged lice in exchange for a chance to escape. Xing Shan is still trustworthy. This saved his life. But it's only temporary. Luo Yan didn't know how long he could hold on. At this time, after killing a golden winged louse with his sword, Xing Shan's thigh was already grabbed by another insect and bitten hard. Xing Shan screamed in pain, turned around and stabbed the insect's head with a knife. He didn't even have time to remove the insect corpse, leaving it hanging on his leg. Then he rushed forward and chopped open another golden-winged louse. Less than 30 seconds. Zheng Shan was already a little exhausted. Luo Yin narrowed his eyes, ready to take over at any time. At this time, the advantages of viewing mountains and seas are highlighted. Although Luo Yin only cultivated to the second level. However, his physical fitness is stronger than Zheng Shan. The energy needs to recover faster. Rest for half a minute. He felt like he could fight again. But at this moment, there was a sound outside that was inaudible to human ears. The sound caused the golden-winged lice to fall to the ground one by one, and crawling around like an ant on hot pot. This strange sight cheered up Luo Yin and Zheng Shan. It's obvious. Reinforcements have arrived. Sure enough, soon a strong light shone in from outside the gap. Then, gunshots rang out rhythmically. Bang, bang, bang. With every gunshot, one of the golden-winged lice's heads would explode on the ground. After more than a dozen gunshots, the remaining golden-winged lice have all been killed. Then Wei Fenghua's voice was heard outside. Luo Yin, are you in there? Zheng Shan's eyes suddenly turned red. Only after hearing Wei Fenghua's voice did he believe it. Escape from death. Yes, Luo Yin and I are here. Zheng Shan was about to run away, but suddenly turned back and reached out to hold Luo Yin's hand. Put it on your shoulders. It turned out that he wanted to help Luo Yin get out. Luo Yin hesitated for 1 second. Then there was no rejection. Just like that, he walked out of the gap with Zheng Shan. Outside the pile of rocks, the fog has cleared. The wind is blowing. The night sky is full of twinkling stars. Luo Yin felt like he was reborn as a human being. Then I saw a mysterious aircraft standing not far away. The strong light is shining down from the body. Wei Fenghua came with a combat team. The team leader saw insect corpses all over the ground. His expression changed slightly. You killed all of them? Zheng Shan nodded vigorously. Then he looked at Luo Yin and said, it was mainly him who killed them. I just cut down a few. After saying that, Zheng Shan discovered. The captain and members of the combat team looked at Luo Yin with a hint of respect in their eyes. Wei Fenghua looked them up and down. Nodded. Go back first. We'll talk tomorrow if there's anything. The team leader made a gesture and asked an off-road vehicle to drive over. When getting on the bus, Luo Yin saw a stretcher passing by. On it lay Wu Runfan's body. He had been sucked dry. The death was horrific. After returning to the camp, Luo Yin and Zheng Shan were examined and treated. Luo Yin's injuries were more serious. He was left in the medical vehicle for observation. No words were spoken that night. The next day, Luo Yin was called into the tent by Wei Fenghua. Wei Fenghua asked about what happened yesterday. Luo Yin told everything. Upon hearing that Wu Renfan was instructed by Ren Zhong, he gave the backpack with the phoenix sunflower hidden in the interlayer to Luo Yin. Wei Fenghua snorted and said, at such a young age, you have such a vicious mind. He shook his head and sighed. It's a pity that Wu Renfan is dead. Now there is no evidence. It would be difficult to convict Luo Beichen with just this phoenix tail sunflower. Besides, he can push it to Ren Zhong. What are your plans? Luo Yin was silent for a moment, then said, a tooth for a tooth. Wei Fenghua glanced at him and said nothing. Somewhere in the collection area, Ren Zhong followed closely behind Luo Beichen. The two came to a deserted place. Luo Beichen smiled and said, you did a great job. You are the one who managed to get something as difficult as the phoenix palm. As expected of my brother. After I get back, I'll say hello to the group. Let your brother come to work at the group at the beginning of next month. Ren Zhong quickly said, thank you, Luo Ge. Then he snorted and said, that guy named Luo got a bargain. I didn't expect that Wu Renfan changed his backpack, and Luo was still alive. He is really lucky. Luo Beichen said calmly, it's okay. Although he survived, he was also injured. When you fight in the death ring, you must be affected. I have a better chance of winning. Ren Zhong chuckled and said, even if Luo knows now, he can't do anything to us. I wonder if the academy will report this to the old man after we go back? Luo Beichen said gloomily, Su? Does he have evidence? Don't forget, Wu Renfan is dead. Besides, my dad doesn't want me to lose this fight. It doesn't matter if I die. He can't bear it. Besides, they are all dead. Until death, there is no end in sight. So naturally, there is no end in sight. Who would be so naive as to think that this fight to the death would have to wait until the day of the competition? When Luo agreed to the challenge, the fight to the death had already begun. Renjong seized the opportunity and gave a thumbs up. Brother Luo is wise. The two walked away. A moment passed. A figure suddenly appeared where they were talking just now. In a blink of an eye. It's evening. Luo Beichen and Renjong walked back. Renjong was carrying a backpack. The backpack is bulging. It was stuffed with various herbs. There shouldn't be any gathering missions tomorrow. As Luo Beichen walked, he said, I asked you to carry things these 2 days. Thank you for your hard work. Renjong's shoulders were sore from the weight of the backpack. Hearing this, but he quickly said, It's not hard. It's not hard. This is nothing. It's just a piece of cake. Just at this moment, a glass bottle flew over their heads. Call out. A stone flew in from somewhere. Hit the bottle. The bottle exploded. A ball of green powder fell out from there. Let the wind blow. Scattered. Fly towards the two of them. Luo Beichen's reaction was not slow. When I saw the bottle break, it had already fallen over. Keep your distance. There was only a little green on his body. Renjong was so busy flattering that he was a beat slow to react. It spilled right there. There was grass residue everywhere on the head, face, and body. Even a pinch of it spilled into his mouth. Pfft. He spat out all the grass in his mouth. He looked around and shouted, Who is this? So wicked. Get out of here right now. But there is no one there. Luo Beichen leaped out like a leopard and pounced towards the place where the bottle had just flown from. But there was not even a ghost in sight except a pile of rocks. He frowned, feeling a little puzzled. I went back to Renjong and asked, Are you okay? No. Renjong brushed off the grass on his body, sniffed hard, and then said in confusion, Strange. This smell smells strangely familiar. Unexpectedly. As soon as these words came out, Luo Beichen's face suddenly changed. What's wrong, Luo? Seeing Luo Beichen's color change, Renjong couldn't help but step forward. Stop right there. Luo Beichen yelled and even raised his rifle. Renjong was startled. Brother Luo, what are you doing? Luo Beichen quickly shake off the little bit of grass dust on your body. This might be the powder ground from the phoenix palm. Luo Beichen looked at Renjong and said, Stay here and don't move. I'll go back to the camp to get help. While talking, I don't know if it's an illusion. Luo Beichen always felt that the grass and trees in the distance seemed to become blurry. It seems like it's foggy. When Renjong heard it was the phoenix sunflower, he jumped in shock and said, No way. Where did the phoenix sunflower come from? Then he shouted Luo Yin. Renjong hurriedly said, Brother Luo, let me go back with you. This place is not far from the camp. Let's run faster, and we should be able to get there before dark. Luo Beichen didn't think so. They were now quite a distance away from the camp. I'm afraid we won't be able to get back to the camp before dark. If Renjong could follow me along the way. Isn't it possible to be in danger at any time? After all, Renjong's body was now covered with phoenix palm powder. He is now like a beacon in the dark night. Attract the attention of the overlord-level beast at any time. Luo Beichen suddenly lowered the muzzle of the gun and shot Renjong in the leg. Bang! Amid the dull sound of gunfire, a stream of blood spurted out from Renjong's left thigh. He looked blank. It seemed that he didn't expect Luo Beichen to shoot. Then he screamed and fell to the ground. Renjong raised his head, his eyes instantly bloodshot. Why? Didn't you call me your brother this morning? Is this how you treat your brother? Luo Beichen said coldly, It's because I treat you as a brother that I shot you in the leg. Otherwise, this bullet would have been shot in your head. I still say the same thing. Wait for me. Having said that, he turned and ran. He didn't even look at Renjong. Renjong roared, Luo Beichen, you jerk. You will die a miserable death. You shall not die well. I curse you to be killed by Luo Yin. Gasping for breath, Renjong suddenly saw it. There is mist in the corners of the eyes. I don't know when. Everything around was white. He suddenly felt something and shuddered. Turn around. The sun, which had not yet completely set, dyed the thick fog an orange-red. In this hazy red light, in the thick fog, a huge figure was squatting quietly. A cat-like figure. Suddenly, 3 tails rose up from behind the shadow. Rin Zhong just let out a scream. A shadow suddenly emerged from the fog, a tongue with countless fleshy thorns, licking it from him. Suddenly half of Rin Zhong's body was exposed as bones. Campsite. Luo Beichen rushed in and fell to the ground. He was sweating profusely. Finally, we got back to the camp before dark. People passing by pointed at him. Luo Beichen ignored it. Rushed into Luo Yan's tent. In the tent, Luo Yan and Zhang Shan were talking about something. As soon as Luo Beichen came in, he pounced on Luo Yan. Zhang Shan immediately stopped him and asked, "What are you doing?" Luo Beichen's eyes were almost spitting fire, pointing at Luo Yan and yelling, "It was you? You threw the bottle. You sprinkled the powder." His loud shouting attracted Wei Fenghua and a group of students. Luo Beichen pushed Zhang Shan away, took Wei Fenghua's hand and said, "Teacher, catch him. Catch him. He ambushed us. He sprinkled the powder of Phoenix Palm on me and Rin Zhong. He wanted to kill me." Luo Yan's mouth corners slightly raised. "You said I was going to kill you. Do you have any evidence?" S has also updated nearly 10,000 words today. Please vote and collect handsome guys and beautiful girls. Do you have any evidence? Hearing Luo Yan's words, Luo Beichen's face instantly turned blue and red. He certainly had no evidence. At this time, Wei Fenghua coughed twice and asked a classmate to notify the Exploration Corps first. Let them send people to search and rescue. Then he asked, "Luo Yan, have you ambushed Luo Beichen and Rin Zhong?" Luo Yan immediately shook his head. Luo Beichen shouted unwillingly, "You're lying." Wei Fenghua looked at him and said, "Mr. Luo, do you have evidence to prove that it was Luo Yangon who did it?" Luo Beichen said, "I don't have any evidence, but besides him, who else would want to kill me?" Wei Fenghua said slowly, "You can't just accuse others without evidence." Luo Beichen was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood, but I couldn't find any words to refute. Let's go. Wei Fenghua waved her hand and said, "We still have other things to do tomorrow, so go to bed early." Luo Beichen looked at Luo Yan hatefully, then pushed the crowd away and left. After everyone left, Luo Yan sighed and said what a pity. In the morning, he left the camp and followed Luo Beichen and the other man. After figuring out their route, Luo Yan ground the Phoenix Palm into powder. Finally, he successfully sprinkled the powder on the two people. As soon as he succeeded, Luo Yan withdrew. I originally thought that these two people would not be able to escape. I didn't expect Luo Beichen to come back alive. But that task is heavy. I'm afraid it's more likely to be bad than good. It wasn't all in vain. The next day, Luo Yan received the news. Rin Zhong is dead, and he died in an ugly way. Upon hearing this news, Zhang Shan snorted and said, "Serves you right." Luo Yan said nothing. Not sad, not happy. Death, the 3 years he survived on the surface. I've seen too much. After breakfast, students gather. Wei Fenghua put his hands behind his back, coughed twice, and then said, "There is no collection mission today. Your main task today is to observe the Exploration Corps' mission. You must study hard. This will be of great help to your future career as a mecha master." While he was talking, someone drove over in a multi-purpose vehicle. There is a screen on each side of the car. The freshmen were divided into 2 sides, so they could see the entire mission process of the Exploration Corps. Soon, images began to appear on the screen. A convoy can be seen moving along. A student asked, "Teacher, what is the mission of the Exploration Corps today?" "Retrieve the end." Wei Fenghua responded calmly, "This was discovered during the last exploration. Today, they are going to recover the entire piece of Yuan. But this task is not easy. There must be a giant beast near Yuan. Also, there are 3 giant beasts near the piece of Yuan that we are going to reclaim today. The 2 are low-level Rinko and C. There is also the intermediate level 1, spinning turtle. Who can tell me what are the characteristics of the spinning turtle?" As soon as the words fell, Lin Wei raised her hand and said, "Spinning turtle, intermediate level 1. Type of cyprid. Features, thick armor, submerged soil, water resistance, poisonous miasma." Wei Fenghua nodded slightly. "Yes, that's right. I'll give you 10 credits as a reward." He continued, "The other 2 beasts are easier to deal with, but the spinning turtle will be a bit troublesome. Mid-level behemoths already have a certain level of intelligence and cannot be treated as ordinary wild beasts. That's exactly what the turtle is like. Well, you can watch the specific battle process for yourselves. After saying that, Wei Fengwo walked to one side. He took a tin box from his pocket, opened it, and took out 2 pills. Take with water. Then I looked at the big screen with the students. Around the campsite, He Hao and other third-year students drove their own machines to guard the surroundings of the camp. At the same time, through the communicator in the cab, they were also able to see the Exploration Corps' mission process. Now, the Exploration Corps' convoy was traveling in a forest. When there was no way to go, the convoy stopped. Then the compartments of the mecha carriers unfolded and the mecha pilots entered the cabs. A moment later, one by one, the giants came to life. They left the transport vehicle one after another and stood up. Their figures immediately rose above the trees. Dense forest. Under the feet of these steel giants, there is just a patch of messy grass. A total of 7 Genji, led by a dark red machine, advanced towards the target location. Luo Yin knew. The red machine is called Flame. It is said that the person driving it is Di Zhang's right-hand subordinate. Soon the team of mechas walked out of the forest. Outside the forest is a plain. Although this place cannot be considered the hinterland of the canyon, but there was already a thin mist floating in the air. This makes the rocks and scattered trees on the plain seem a little blurry, but it can still be seen. There is a big lake in the distance. There is a small island in the center of the lake, and on that island is a huge, pitch-black crystal stone. It stands like a hill, deep and dark. At this time, the roar of a giant beast was heard from the plain. The students watching in the camp were very nervous when they heard this. Screen. The flame made a gesture, and 2 mysterious machines fired towards the depths of the plain. Br bang. Bang. 2 gunshots were heard and something was fired out. Draw a parabola. It fell to the ground, and after a moment, light yellow smoke floated up. Wei Fenghua explained, that's a smoke bomb mixed with Yuan powder. It can attract the attention of the giant beast. However, it only works on lower-level beasts. He just finished speaking. On the screen, 2 dark shadows appeared in the distance on the plain. In a blink of an eye, 2 huge beasts rushed over. One is the raccoon, which looks like a wild boar. The first one is the black-haired sea. As soon as these 2 lower-level beasts appeared, Flame took the 2 mysteries and bypassed them. There are 4 Xuanji remaining, 2 in a group. He raised his Kimui rifle, which was specially designed for behemoths, and shot at the front paws of Rinpoche and C. Bang 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 bang. Violent and dull gunshots came from the screen. Still as huge as thunder. Rays of fire cut through the air and swept across the front feet of the 2 giant beasts. The blows left their skin and flesh torn and blood splattered. The 2 giant beasts became ferocious. Lili rushed towards a mecha while facing bullets. The sea pose lifts its front legs and then steps down hard, causing shock waves. They do it in their own way, fighting against 4 mechas. The camera switches at this time. The 3 mechas headed by Flame appeared on the screen. Soon they came near a big lake. No waiting. The armor on the shoulder of Flame opened, revealing the small missile launch bay inside. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, small missiles emitted flames and flew across the lake. It actually flew towards the small island in the lake, the Yuan that looked like a small mountain. Suprinodontids are shelled animals, such as turtles, insects, etc. The small missiles were about to fly onto the island in the lake. Sudden, a whirlpool quickly formed in the water of the Great Lake. In the vortex, a huge shadow was looming. The next second, several rotating water columns rose from the lake. They are like divine dragons condensed from the lake water, swaying in the water column. All those small missiles were intercepted. One fireball after another exploded. Then huge waves arose in the lake, with waves over 10 meters high hitting the shore. A turbulent stream of water formed. They rushed past the feet of the 3 mechas, including the Flame. Then it flows back into the lake. In the big lake, a huge black shadow broke through the water and appeared on the screen. This thing has a thick shell like a turtle, and the back of the shell is covered with clumps of seaweed. Streams of water flowed down from all parts of the giant beast's body like dozens of waterfalls. This beast has a bird-like head and a venomous snake-like tail. It roared at the uninvited guest on the lakeshore. Its cry sounds like chopping wood. This is the spinning turtle, an intermediate level 1 behemoth. The classic of mountains and seas mentions a strange water coming out of the mountain of Zhuyang. There are many black turtles in the water, which look like turtles but have bird heads and snake tails. They are called xiangui and make sounds like panting wood. Wearing it will not make you deaf and can be used as a footwear. Although the giant beasts above the middle level have intelligence, they can be used because of this. Wei Fenghua's voice rang out, attracted the students' attention. These intelligent beasts all know the importance of the Yunin. I know that this kind of strange stone can make them evolve and even break through their original rank. Therefore, when the earth is in danger, they often appear in the stone guard. We can use this to our advantage, lure the beasts out, and then pull them out of their home turf. Obtain a more favorable combat environment. When Wei Fenghua was explaining, on the screen, the 3 mechas, led by Flame, have quickly formed hand seals. At the same time, he pointed at the spinning turtle in the lake. 3 black ropes shot out at the same time, wrap around the turtle's body. Machine at the same time. They exerted force to drag the giant beast in the lake to the shore. Is this possible? Luo Yin was surprised. It turns out that the Shin Jutsu can be used in this way. And, after being amplified by the mystery, it's also the black rope, but it is countless times thicker than the one used by Luo Yin. In a blink of an eye, the turtle was pulled to the shore of the lake. The 3 Xuanji released their hand seals, raised their rifles, and started shooting. The giant beast suddenly moved the head, limbs, and tail. All of them retreated into their shells. The flashes of fire created by the bullets hit the thick shell like a torrential rain. The collision creates countless sparks. But apart from blowing away the seaweed on its shell, not even a crack could be seen on the turtle's thick shell. Soon the 3 mechas had emptied their magazines. The tortoise took the opportunity to stretch out its head and limbs, and then started digging with its 4 claws. The ground didn't seem to change at all, but it seemed unreal. The black turtle's body sank into the ground. This is its hidden ability. Flame immediately made a gesture. 3 mechas gathered together. Back to back, guns pointed at the ground. Bang, 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 bang. The rifle, which had already been reloaded, fired again. Rays of fire shot towards the earth, blasting it into pieces of dirt and rocks. Suddenly, the spinning turtle rose from the ground not far away, opened its mouth and blew out a column of dark green smoke. This is poisonous miasma. The 3 mechas have already dispersed wisely. Then full fire. Rifles, missiles, the armor on the back of the Flame opened, and a gun barrel rose from the body, mounted on the right shoulder. It is a large caliber cannon designed specifically for behemoths. The turtle can no longer be seen on the screen. Under the concentrated fire of the 3 mechas, flames flew and mud and rocks splashed. Lenses shaking constantly. There is no clear picture at all. Outside the student camp, in the black mecha with long arms, Hihao watched the battle scene on the screen. Eyes flickering. His fists were slightly clenched. It seems that he wants to show his skills on the battlefield. At this moment, the sensor beeped. At first, Hihao didn't care. Soon the sensor rang again. Only then did Hihao look. His face suddenly changed. The sensor picks up a blue spectrum signal. This is the reaction of a lower-level behemoth. Hihao immediately picked up the intercom and said, "Attention, the camp is at 7 o'clock. A blue spectrum signal has appeared. Already matched with the database, it's a raccoon." As soon as the words fell, the voice of his deputy, Sujio, also rang out. ASI appears at the 12 o'clock position. Wait, there's one at 2 o'clock too. Reports of behemoths continue to emerge. On the sensor radar, Hihao saw that there were 6 lower-level giant beasts around the camp and were coming towards this side. Suddenly, an alarm sounded in the camp. "Everyone, please pay attention. 6 lower-level beasts are attacking the camp." Hihao's voice rang out over the camp. "We will try to intercept you, Mr. Wei. Please evacuate immediately." This sudden alarm. "Let the students mess up?" Zheng Shan shouted. "Why are there 6 giant beasts? Isn't this the edge of the area, a safe zone?" Luo Yin was speechless. At this time, Wei Fenghua shouted, "Break the hole into pieces. If we gather together, we will be too obvious a target." You will be targeted by the giant beast. Everyone will be divided into groups according to the previous ones. Each group will drive an off-road vehicle and leave. Gather at the canyon entrance. Take action now. After hearing this, Luo Yin rushed out immediately. Zheng Shan hurriedly followed. The two rushed to the nearest SUV. But some people have the same idea. Luo Beichen. He also noticed Luo Yin and the other person. He glared at Luo Yin. Instead of stopping, it accelerated. The same is true for Luo Yin. The two met soon. Luo Beichen shouted and kicked forward. The toes poked at Luo Yan's head. Luo Yin raised his arm to block it. At the same time, strike out with the right fist. He gathered his energy and punched hard. Luo Beichen held it with his hands. But he was still forced to retreat several steps by Luo Yin. Zheng Shan took the opportunity to jump into the cab. He started the car, turned the steering wheel, and crashed into Luo Beichen. Luo Beichen quickly rolled over to avoid it. Luo Yin didn't get entangled with him. Hopped on the SUV. Zheng Shan turned the car around and headed towards the exit of the camp. Luo Beichen snorted and jumped onto an SUV that was passing by. It doesn't matter whether the group of people in the car are happy or not. He sat down with one plop. Just out of the campground, Luo Yin heard a roar. Raise your head. In the forest ahead, trees were blown down. A raccoon rushed straight towards him. Just at this moment, Luo Yin felt a dark sensation above his head. Raise your head. They saw a mecha stepping over their off-road vehicle. View from below. You can see the mottled scratches on the fuselage's outer armor, the flashing signal lights, and the gas discharged from the fuselage. Boom. Black Thunder stomped his foot heavily on the nearby ground. While causing the ground to dent, the off-road vehicle that Luo Yin was in also jumped up. Then Black Thunder rushed towards the giant beast and hugged Li Li's boar-like head with his two huge arms. Knock him down hard. Bang! The giant beast fell to the ground on its side, and the off-road vehicle driven by Luo Yin and his companions suddenly drove past the four kicking legs of Li Li. After Luo Yin and his companion's off-road vehicle passed by, an off-road vehicle followed behind them and passed by Li Li. That car was not as lucky as Luo Yin and his friends. Suddenly, I was kicked by raccoon force. The whole car flew out suddenly, accompanied by several screams in the car. Fell into the woods in the distance. A moment later, there was an explosion. It looks like a bad situation. Luo Yin looked back. The Li Li had already climbed up and crashed into the black heavy machine driven by He Hao. Black thunder blue flames spurted out from the feet and palms at the same time. This seemingly bulky machine suddenly distanced itself from the giant beast. Then, he formed the Black Thunder Seal. He used the mysterious technique Black Rope to wrap around the giant beast's front legs. Pull hard. The behemoth fell to the ground again, and was then pulled away by the Black Thunder, allowing the vehicles behind to pass. Just at this moment, boom, there was a loud noise. Luo Yin looked in the direction of the voice. A Shinji driven by a third grader was knocked over by a raccoon. Then he used the shock wave to send the buffalo like sea flying. When the mecha finally stabilized its steps, two giant beasts rushed over from the left and right. The aircraft was smashed into pieces, parts flew everywhere, and explosions continued. Finally, the driver was ejected from the head of the mecha. Before it landed, the wild boar like Li Li opened its mouth to catch it and swallowed it directly into its stomach. This is a tragic scene. Luo Yin remained silent for a long time. He got back in the car. Zheng Shan, who was driving, also saw this scene in the rearview mirror. That's tragic. Zheng Shan shook his head and continued, but it's too weird. Why did so many giant beasts suddenly appear? Luo Yin narrowed his eyes slightly and uttered a word. Zheng Shan was stunned. Just said, Lao Luo, do you think it was that overlord-level beast that did it? Lao Luo? Luo Yin frowned but did not object. No, except for this possibility. Because of the phoenix palm, Huan has appeared in the safe zone. Maybe he really noticed the camp. In addition, among the characteristics of Huan, there is a description of taming beasts. Now many behemoths come together. It's hard to believe it's a coincidence. More like being driven by something. Just at this moment, a roar was heard. In response to the pressure, Luo Yin activated the Eye of Breaking Barriers. The world suddenly became a stick figure in his eyes. Simple lines depict the outline of things. Luo Yin immediately discovered that there was a forest on their left. There was a huge biological gray light approaching. There's a giant beast over there. Luo Yin pointed to the left. At this time, the trees in the forest were uprooted. They flew out like huge spears. Luo Yin felt a dark sensation above his head. A huge tree fell from the sky. Xing Shan turned the steering wheel sharply. The off-road vehicle turned a corner quickly and finally let the big tree fall next to it. It didn't hit the car directly, but many branches got entangled in the off-road vehicle. Xing Shan stepped on the accelerator to the bottom, and the wheels of the off-road vehicle were smoking. Can't leave either. At this time, a sea with dark hair and a buffalo-like appearance rushed out. Rushing towards them. Run. Luo Yin made a prompt decision. Unbuckle your seatbelt. Jumped off the SUV. He and Xing Shan had just jumped off the vehicle when it suddenly got dark above their heads, and they saw a huge hoof stepping down. A life or death moment. Luo Yin burst out with all his strength. The energy in the body runs explosively through the meridians. Let Luo Yin rush out suddenly. Just before the giant hoof landed, he escaped from the trampling range. Luo Yin looked back. The SUV had been crushed. No one knows whether Xing Shan is dead or alive. Now Luo Yin can't take care of him. Turn around and run. Behind him, the huge black bull-like beast had already left. Looks like he just happened to pass by. But Luo Yin's danger was not over yet. There was a loud squeaking sound behind him. Luo Yin looked back and his scalp suddenly felt numb. A group of giant parasites are following. Those are some parasites like bluebottles. Each of them is the size of a puppy. The body is swollen, and there are many calluses on the back. It has wings, but cannot fly. But it crawled very fast on the ground. These are the rot flies that are parasites on the sea. The bubble calluses on their bodies will burst at the slightest stimulation. High concentrations of corrosive liquid will be splashed. Additionally, these things like to lay their eggs inside living things. Hundreds of eggs can be laid each time. After the larvae hatch from the eggs, they will parasitize the host's body and feed on the host's blood and flesh. A group of rotten ropes followed closely behind Luo Yin. These things are different from golden wing lice and cannot be killed at close range. And now, Luo Yin has no gun on him. The rot flies were getting closer and closer. Luo Yin activated the eye of breaking barriers and searched everywhere for an environment that could save his life. He hoped to find a scene like a cave. In that case, as long as the entrance to the cave is blocked, there is a high chance of survival. Then he heard the sound of water. Some searching. He soon found a small river. Luo Yin immediately ran to the river. I saw the river was surging and flowing very fast. Luo Yin glanced at the swarm of flies approaching from behind. Gritting his teeth, he jumped into the river. Suddenly, he was carried downstream uncontrollably by the current. Luo Yin tried hard to float to the surface. Glancing back, those rot flies at first, it chased along the river bank, but in the end, it was not as fast as the water flow. After a moment, it disappeared without a trace. At this time, Luo Yin tried hard to get closer to the river bank, but unfortunately he failed after several attempts because the water flow was too fast. Along the way, they encountered river pebbles from time to time, and Luo Yin collided with them several times. Every time there was a collision, Luo Yin would use his energy in advance to make his skin take on the texture of rock. This way I didn't knock myself out. But then, something even more despairing happened to him. This small river that passes through the woods eventually flows into an underground cave. Luo Yin tried hard to get ashore before entering the cave. Unfortunately, human power is ultimately no match for the power of nature. Eventually, he was washed into the cave by the river. He floated up and down in the water and choked on several mouthfuls of river water. Finally, after passing a sharp bend, the river gradually widened. The water flow also slowed down. Luo Yin quickly activated the eye of breaking barriers and found a shallow beach. A moment later, he was lying on the rocky beach. He was soaked all over and could only breathe heavily. Don't worry about anything else. After a while, he then sat up. Then take off your clothes and pants, to avoid wearing wet clothes and catching a cold. After drying the clothes, Luo Yin continued to use the eye of breaking barriers to find an exit. Soon, he found a cave. Through the eye of breaking barriers, he discovered that this cave led to a relatively open area. And if he doesn't take this path, then he only has one choice. That means going upstream and leaving the river from where it came in. But that is not something he can do now. In desperation, Luo Yin had to crawl into the cave. No conversation along the way. After spending more than half an hour, Luo Yin saw the light. He didn't rush out immediately. First, use the eye of breaking obstacles to observe the exit. As a result, the biological gray light was not seen, but the space outside the hole was discovered. The density of Yuanli is astonishingly great.